KSL News Radio,
Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
9 o'clock at KSL News Radio. I'm Amanda Dixon. Our top story this hour, repeating our breaking news on KSL News Radio. A federal judge is issuing a new nationwide block against President Trump's executive order ending birthright citizenship. This comes after the Supreme Court curbed the power of lower court judges last month. This judge is reportedly certifying a lawsuit that includes all children who will be affected by the executive order. Ogden City has picked out a new deputy chief. Mike Slater is set to take the job after the current chief, Mike Matthew, retires later this month. The Standard Examiner reports Slater will be recommended for the job by Mayor Ben Nadolski, who says, quote, Slater exemplifies everything we value in public service and leadership. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. Taiwan is starting its largest ever military drills using newly purchased tanks from the U.S. ABC's Britt Clennett reports from Taipei.
We were at a military base as they live fired the first batch of 38 U.S.-bought M1 Abrams tanks. Now, the military showed us these tanks engaging targets at sea. One colonel I spoke to said they are extremely happy with their accuracy as these tanks really enhance their offshore combat power, giving a significant boost to their defense, and saying that these Abrams, they're highly mobile, they're powerful with a fast response time.
The 10-day live-fire drills are intended to guard the self-governing island against Chinese threats to invade. A lavender field in Millville, Utah draws visitors from all over, and this weekend there is a special opportunity to visit. The annual Lavender Festival will be held Friday and Saturday from 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. There will reportedly be vendors, live music, a yodeler, and more. Your money at this moment, let's see where the markets are right now. The Dow is up 222. We're at 44,680. Coming up, a little cooler today. KSL weather is next. KSL News Time, 9:02. Mornings are for recharging.
And they're for starting your day right.
We volunteer to join you in the car. Get news and weather at 102.7 FM during the most important part of your day.
Andy and Amanda, each morning between 5 and 9 on KSL News Radio.
Jim Jr. here from RGS Exteriors. I want to tell you about our famous You Don't Need a Warranty warranty. That's right. It's a warranty you don't need, but we give it to you anyway. Let me explain. Most warranty problems for siding, gutters, and windows are caused by not installing stuff right in the first place. If you rush the work, cut corners, or use subpar materials, you're just begging for problems later. At RGS Exteriors, we don't tolerate careless workmanship. We slow down, focus on every detail, and use only the best materials. We prevent warranty work by doing the job right in the first place. That's why the 10-year everything guarantee we give you is also known as our You Don't Need a Warranty warranty. We absolutely will be there if you need to use it. But honestly, you probably will never have to. Done right the first time. That's the RGS way. For siding, gutters, and windows, call 801-280-3110 or visit us at rgsexteriors.com.
Ooh, ma. What was that? That is business phone bliss with the Ooma Cloud phone system. It handles all our voice, video, and messaging needs.
You sound very...
Calm? I am. Ooma has everything I need to run my business more efficiently, like virtual receptionist, call routing, and video conferencing. And it starts at just $19.95 per month per user, plus taxes and fees.
Ooma.
Nice. Find your business calm at ooma.com/radio.
If you could hear Old Spice Fiji Antiperspirant, what would it sound like? First, you'd start with Fiji Antiperspirant's amazing scent of palm trees. Add pure notes of fresh coconut and layer on 24/7 odor and sweat protection. You won't hear any dyes or parabens because with Fiji, you won't have any. So while your regular antiperspirant sounds like this, Old Spice Fiji sounds like this. Sounds like it smells amazing.
Barry Manilow. Looks like we made it. The last West Valley City concert. Barry Manilow. See him performing all the hits for one night only. Barry Manilow. This Monday at Maverick Center. Get tickets now at Ticketmaster.com.
1847. Our home Utah takes shape. A century later, Utah's home champion is born. Since 1947, Whipple Service Champions has earned the trust of over 250,000 Utah homeowners, with techs who rise above to deliver award-winning heating, cooling, plumbing, and electrical. Championing the spirit of 47, Whipple is offering $47 off any home repair or service, including drain clearings. Act now and call Whipple Service Champions at 801-896-1947 for the win today.
Traffic and weather together brought to you by Mountain America's Double Rewards credit card promotion. And here's Heather Kelly.
Well, speeds are improving a little bit in Davis County, but you're still well under the speed limit on both southbound I-15 and Legacy Parkway from Park Lane and Farmington all the way down to Parrish Lane and Centerville due to earlier crashes. And then as you continue southbound 15 into the Salt Lake Valley, it is stop and go as you approach 45th South in Murray, all the way down to the I-215 South interchange. That is due to a multi-vehicle crash blocking the right lane and shoulder, and it's still a struggle northbound 15 trying to get out of Utah County. Deseret First Credit Union is turning 70, and now it's their turn to say thank you with special member giveaways happening all year long. Visit dfcu.com to learn more. Heather Kelly in the KSL Traffic Center.
Today will be about 10 degrees cooler, 90 for a high, 91 tomorrow, 93 on Saturday. And right now, sunshine and 80 degrees. I'm Amanda Dixon from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
The all-new Inside Sources. Your inside access to the people and policies shaping Utah's future. Here are Greg Skordas and Holly Richardson on KSL News Radio.
What do Greg and Holly not have in common? Greg loves motorcycles. Holly does not particularly like them. But we're talking about motorcycles today because, unfortunately, Utah is on pace to surpass a bad total, which is the number of fatal crashes and significant crashes that we've ever had in our history. Adam Small talked to us about this earlier.
In just the last 8 days, we've had several fatal crashes involving motorcycles along the Wasatch Front, and it's really a microcosm of a larger problem we've been seeing over the last year and a half. Utah Highway Patrol Lieutenant Cameron Roden tells me last year was the deadliest year for motorcyclists in our state in 15 years, and he says this year is on pace to be even worse.
They're definitely overrepresented, and it's something that we just need to take seriously and do something about it.
Roden says there's a variety of reasons as to why these numbers are rising, but one contributor, he says, is failing to yield to riders at intersections. That's why he's pleading with drivers and motorcyclists to double-check your blind spots and be aware of others around you on the road.
We have to work together.
Adam Small, KSL News Radio.
And we're lucky to have with us this morning Lieutenant Roden. Lieutenant, thank you for joining us.
Hey, thanks for having me.
And I've known you for a while. I know your people are the best riders in the state. If you ever want to watch somebody, Holly, ride a motorcycle, or if you ever want to teach a kid how to ride a motorcycle, get behind a Utah Highway Patrol trooper when they're riding. I've ridden with them before, and they're the best of the business. But Lieutenant, tell us what's going on. Why do you think these numbers are so significant?
Well, like you said earlier, this has been something that's been happening over the last couple of years. Last year, we set that 15-year high with over 50 fatalities for the year. And so far this year, we're already at 35 fatalities and only about halfway through the season. So definitely on pace. Just to kind of paint the picture and help you understand, last year at the same time, we were at 22 fatalities, and now we're already at 35 fatalities. So up close to 55%. There's a lot of contributors when we go into that. We actually really break it down into two different categories because we see a trend with that where we see motorcyclists that are involved in crashes by themselves, no other vehicles involved. And then we break it down to the category where other vehicles are involved. And because the contributors to those crashes are a little bit different. When you look at just motorcycles, no other vehicles involved, we see things like, speed being a significant factor, as well as experience. You get some younger drivers or drivers who are driving a different bike than what they're used to and just not accustomed to those changes causing crashes. But then alcohol and drug impairment tends to be a factor in those single vehicle crashes as well. But then when you look at the multi-vehicle crashes, we do see things like failure to keep in your proper lane, where a car doesn't see a motorcycle in their blind spot, or at an intersection they end up turning left because they did not yield the right of way to an approaching motorcycle. So just things that we need to work on together as motorcyclists and regular motorists together.
So, Lieutenant Roden, what kind of safety measures can motorcycle riders take?
There's several things they can do. Just knowing that, the risk is higher for yourselves. There's a couple of things like going and getting as much education. There's several different rider education programs. In fact, the Highway Safety Office has a discount code that if you are interested in that, you can look at on their website to go get some rider education courses and get more experience specifically on the bike that you're going to be riding. But then gear is going to be vitally important too to help protect yourself, because on a motorcycle, you just don't have the same protections that you do inside of a car or another vehicle, that structure around you. And then make sure you're getting your motorcycle endorsement. We're seeing quite a few crashes involving motorcyclists that still don't even have their motorcycle endorsement.
Yeah, that's interesting, because I got mine over 50 years ago when it maybe was a little bit easier. I think a lot of people don't do that. And I'll just echo something you said, Lieutenant Roden. When I'm on a motorcycle and I'm approaching an intersection, there's a moment when you're really, really cautious, because the left-hand turn of a motorist coming the other way is one of I think the most significant causes of accidents. So let's talk about that from the motor vehicle, the car's perspective. What do motorists not recognize when they approach intersections and a motorcycle is coming?
Well, I think there's a couple of issues when you start looking at that. That is one where we've got so many things going inside our car at the same time. You may have your kids in the car. You may be having some type of device on the phone or anything. We need to limit any type of distractions that take our attentions away from driving, because it does require all of our attention to be able to spot any potential hazards and just to execute the driving that we need to do safely. But then also, too, our perception is a little bit different with a motorcycle at an intersection than it is with a regular vehicle. They're smaller. It's harder to gauge their distance and speed. And so just play it safe, be cautious, and err on the side of that caution when they're approaching, to give them a little extra space.
Lieutenant, another phenomena that's occurred with respect to motorcycle laws in Utah that I'm still not up to speed with 100% is this concept of lane filtering. Can you tell our listeners what that means? Because nowadays we see motorcycles driving between cars in a way that we didn't see before, unless you were in California or some other states that have had that for a while.
Yeah, that is something that we've really tried to share this message, because there has been some misconceptions, and we want to clear those up, because there's a difference between lane filtering and lane splitting. Lane filtering is done in very specific areas that are roadways that are speed limits of 45 miles per hour or lower. They have at least two lanes traveling in the same direction. Traffic at those intersections has to be stopped, and a motorcycle can pass between those at speeds less than 15 miles per hour. So to help get them away from the back of the line where they could get hit, rear-ended, and hurt. Lane splitting is where traffic is flowing, especially like on the freeways, and a motorcyclist is just traveling between two lanes, and we've seen it at speeds that are freeway speeds. This is very dangerous and is not allowed. It's by law here in Utah, and so we want to make sure that people understand the difference between lane splitting and lane filtering.
Yeah, and so let's be clear on that, Lieutenant, and I think you said it very, very well. Lane filtering is legal in Utah. Lane splitting is not.
Correct. Yep. Lane filtering is legal. Lane splitting is not.
Thank you for talking to us today, Lieutenant Roden. I feel like motorcycles are so dangerous, and it probably is a misperception on my part, but they're definitely more dangerous than cars. It sounds
no, there's no question about it. And there's so many things that contribute to that. I mean, if you think about a motorcycle, Holly, if you're driving down the highway in your car and somebody's dropped a 2x4 in the road,
right,
or there's a big rock in the road, or
right,
even just a big chuck hole. If you're hitting your car, it's an annoyance. But if you're on a motorcycle, it can be deadly. I mean, I hit a dog once on my motorcycle, and luckily I was going slow, but the wobble after that was just frightening. I have motorcycles. I've had them my whole life. I currently have several, but I I used to take my wife. She doesn't even get on them anymore. So but I want to stay on this topic when we come back after the break and talk about some laws, some things that people may not be familiar with in terms of motorcycles, and some of the crashes and some of the accidents we've seen here in Utah. We'll be right back.
Andy, my husband and I had Bedrock Quartz redo 3 bathrooms for us, 2 in the old house and 1 in the new house. And I loved working with them for so many reasons. One of which is that they're like a 4-generation family-owned business here in Utah that has been installing countertops and making beautiful kitchens and bathrooms for years and years.
Well, at my house, I suffer from what's called paralysis of choice. When you've got something as wide-ranging with the different types of counters that they offer with quartz, quartzite, like I didn't even know what the difference between those things are. I'm going to need that kind of help when I go through the process.
Oh, they have wonderful designers. Plus, when you go in their showrooms, it's super easy. At station number 1, you select your color and your material. Then you go to station number 2. And you pick out your backsplash, and then you go to number 3, and you select your faucets. It's so easy to do.
They've got what's called employee pricing for everyone. This is the first time they've ever offered this.
For the month of July through August, everyone gets the friends and family discount.
They've got 9 locations near you from Layton to St. George, including a new one in Salt Lake City. BedrockQuartz.com. That's BedrockQuartz.com.
Hey, this is Dan, the laptop man from PC Laptops. Myth. You might have heard that you need to spend a fortune these days to get a powerful computer. Correction. At PC Laptops, we wanted to prove that wrong. So here's the most amazing deal that we've ever done at PC Laptops for you in over 30 years. The new 2025 S1 desktop or SM3 laptop for only $999. You heard that right, $999. You get a blazing fast processor, 16 gigs of RAM, and over a terabyte of blazing storage for $999. What else do you get? Lifetime service warranty, and we have 12 months special financing on approved credit. Take one home today. Hurry in right now because supplies are limited, because at PC Laptops, we love you. Just check us out at PCLaptops.com. $999, PCLaptops.com.
Hey there, it's Julie from Logan, where we know how to celebrate summer. First, something super cool when it's really hot. Logan has a new plaza downtown with music and games and a splash pad for kids. Well, I said kids, but hey, we don't judge. Jump in. Free Alive After 5 concerts and movies at the plaza Wednesday and Friday nights. Check out the calendar at ExploreLogan.com. Keep it cool by checking out live tribute concerts like The Monkees, Elton John's The Rocket Man Show, and the Neil Diamond Experience. If theater is more your style, see the musical Bright Star, Broadway's The Prince of Egypt, or the classic comedy The Importance of Being Earnest. After all, Logan is Utah's heart of the arts. Fresh mountain air is only 10 minutes from your hotel. Enjoy cooler temperatures in the canyon while you hike, mountain bike, picnic, fish, or sing yodelay-hee-hoo at the top of your lungs. Everything's cooler in Logan, and we've got a lot going on. Check out the calendar at ExploreLogan.com. ExploreLogan.com.
Keeping your engines healthy means protecting them in season and out. Experts trust Stable to do that. And third-party testing confirms it. Stable is the industry leader in preventing fuel-related issues, no matter if you use it in your car, boat, or outdoor power equipment. In season or out, at every fill-up or when you store, start with Stable.
I'm Ed Evans, CEO of Consumer Cellular. No, we're not one of the big guys. Truth is, we don't want to be. If you're over 50, Big Wireless probably has you paying for more data than you might need. You could be throwing away thousands over a lifetime. We're not here to be the biggest. We're here to bring you something we believe is better. Our plans start at just $20. You'll get the same fast nationwide coverage without the big wireless bill.
Call 1-888-FREEDOM or visit consumercellular.com/facts. Plans include $5 credit for auto pay and e-billing. See site for additional facts.
At Your Service Pros is giving away a free air conditioner in the month of July. Enter by commenting on any of their YouTube videos. Visit Healthy Water and Air on YouTube and comment. Some restrictions may apply. See YouTube or at yourservicepros.com for details.
Hi, Grandma. What's for dinner?
Hey, honey, I'm making stew tonight.
Ooh, can Nina come over?
I'm not sure about our new friend. I wonder if there's been any drinking going on. Alcohol at her age can lead to so many bad things. I've been meaning to ask you, what would happen if someone offered you a drink?
Grandma?
This is hard. She's so young, but I know I need to talk to her about it now before someone tries to give her alcohol. If anyone ever does offer you a drink, I want you to say no. I have too much respect for my family, and I don't want to get in trouble.
Okay.
Really?
I promise, Grandma. I love you too.
Okay, how about tasting this stew and telling me what you think?
Some children may try alcohol as young as 9 years old. It's not too early to talk about drinking. For tips on how to begin the conversation, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov. That's underagedrinking.samhsa.gov. This message brought to you by SAMHSA and this station.
Inside Sources. Inside Sources.
We're talking about motorcycles, motorcycle fatalities, motorcycle collisions, and we were told that in 2024, Holly, Utah had a 15-year high in terms of serious motorcycle injuries, 346, and motorcycle deaths, 53. That was a 15-year high. This year, we are already at 197 serious injuries and 35 deaths, which if that continues, it won't be a 15-year high. It will be an all-time high in serious injuries and deaths on motorcycles in Utah highways. And there's not a great explanation for it, although I think Lieutenant Roden gave us some ideas about just people, younger people without a lot of experience. Of course, alcohol is a problem. And to me, Holly, I look at the technology with these motorcycles and the idea, and I don't have a bullet bike, although I have had one, but people get on those bikes and think that they can, get down to where your knees almost touching the pavement, and it's just like, no, you can't do that.
That's just terrifying to me.
It's not safe, right?
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of motorcycles, and I would say for me, it started when my dad was giving us rides as kids on his motorcycle. No helmets, of course. And he would go around corners, and I was sure I was just going to scrape my legs across the road, and we never did. But my sister had a bullet bike, actually had a bad crash, has permanent scars from that. I mean, it didn't cause lasting physical damage, but I just feel like they're so dangerous. I'm just terrified. I wouldn't let any of my kids who lived at home even talk about owning a motorcycle. Now that they're adults, one of them has purchased one. But
so I ride with a group of friends, and one of them happens to be a paramedic firefighter. And this is a true story. We never wore helmets. We just didn't. And suddenly he went up on an accident involving a motorcycle and involved a head injury. And he said, Skordas, we're all wearing helmets from now on. And we do. We wear them all the time. Utah law is a little bit unusual, and that is that we don't require helmets. And some states do.
Yep.
Unless you're under 21, you don't have to wear a helmet in Utah. So we used to do a ride for one of it was like a MS ride or something like that. And we would go to Wendover, and everyone would ride their motorcycles from one of the big dealerships here in Salt Lake and ride to Wendover, and you have like 1,000 motorcyclists.
Wow.
And you had to stop at the state line because Nevada has a helmet law.
Wow.
What was really ironic is that we all carried our helmets in the motorcycle,
but didn't wear
just
them.
not on our heads. I mean, it's nuts. It's crazy. And I saw accidents on those rides because there was such a crowd of motorcyclists. It's really hard when you're in a big pack. I mean, you gotta spread out a little bit. But yeah, we would all stop at the state line and put a helmet on, because I mean the casinos and the hotels there are like 100 yards over the line.
Right.
But that's 100 yards of breaking the law.
That's right.
It was crazy.
So you just said you traveled in a great big group. Can in Utah, can you have multiple riders in one lane?
You can. It's not recommended. So what we're talking about is two riders side by side in the same lane. And if you watch like law enforcement officers, the city, the state, the UHP, they'll often ride side by side. And we do sometimes. But what I like to do, I don't like to do that. I tend to stagger. So we're two in a lane, but I'm about 6 feet behind the rider next to me, and you sort of stagger that.
Yeah.
It's just safer because if there is a pothole or there is something in the road that causes, or even a high wind that just blasts you and it pushes you out of the lane for a second, you can get really close to each other. Plus, I'll just say this, we all don't always know the skill of the rider next to us. I mean, with my people, the people that I ride with, the men and women I ride with, I know their skill, and I'll ride alongside them. You can almost talk to each other. You're so close. But with people I don't know, I don't like to do that. And if somebody comes up or rides side by side with me that I don't know, I'll usually slow down or speed up so that we're not having that the closeness to one another.
Yeah, I think for me, from a personal perspective, it feels like the danger is just so high. When I worked as a nurse in the hospital, this is my first career many years ago. We called them donor cycles because it felt like so many people died on them that they ended up donating organs because they would come into the hospital and just like, we can't save this person.
Right, and those bullet bikes really contributed, and I've ridden them, and they're so fun, Holly. They're so fun because you can go fast. I mean, the big lug, motorcycle, the big heavy street bike that a lot of people ride. Let's face it, they're slow. You don't necessarily go around a corner with your knee touching the ground. They're not at the same level. But when you get on a bullet bike, you feel like you're bulletproof, and you're not. They're just as dangerous, maybe more dangerous, because of that perception that people have.
Well, when we just did our segment, you were talking about lane splitting. You were asking questions about lane splitting. And now I can't even remember the other one.
Lane filtering.
And lane filtering. See, clearly I don't understand. So it makes me really nervous when I am driving my car to have motorcyclists next to me, especially if it feels like they're weaving in and out. Can you really re-explain to me what do those mean?
Right. So Lieutenant Roden explained it, but I'll go into a little bit more detail. Utah does not allow what's called lane splitting. That is to say, if you're on the freeway and it's going a little bit slow and a motorcyclist goes down the dotted line between cars, that's illegal. You cannot do that in Utah. You can only do this. It's called lane filtering, which means if you're on a road where the speed limit is 45 miles an hour or less, that's a limiting factor, and you are at an intersection and the traffic is stopped, the motorcyclist can come up through the traffic between cars up to the stoplight, up to the line, and then as soon as the light changes, they have to get back into a lane. That's the limit on what motorcyclists can do in Utah. People see, I see it all the time, especially when traffic's backed up, you're on the interstate or Highway 89 a lot, and everybody's sort of backed up, and the motorcyclist will just fly between traffic. That's
I've seen that
forbidden.
on I-15 all the time.
Right,
yeah.
and even though I ride motorcycles, and I've done it for 52 years, it scares me when I see a motorcyclist do that. I always think, not that I would open my door, but if you open your door, it would be really bad.
Right.
Something really bad could happen. And I'll tell you something else people don't recognize. On hot days when the road, the
starts to melt a little.
Yes, right.
Yeah.
It can be slick. And so what happens a lot, and Lieutenant Roden talked about this, speed. Motorcycles will get down and think that they're going fast. And normally if the road was calm and didn't have the oils that come up or some of the other things that cause the road to get a little more slick, you can make the turn. But once you hit that, you're done, and you slide out, and that's another reason that we have a lot of motorcycle accidents. But the thing that scares me the most on a motorcycle, it always has, it always will, is the left-hand turn. When I approach an intersection and I'm watching that car coming the other way, and I'm thinking, does he or she see me?
Yeah.
And if they start making any turn at all, I don't like going through intersections, because to me that's the most frightening part of riding a motorcycle is the left-hand turn.
I was in Ogden a few weeks ago, and I actually saw, this was not a motorcycle but a pedestrian. I saw a car, an SUV, turn left and literally hit a pedestrian.
Yeah.
And the driver's like, I didn't even see you. And these were two people walking in a crosswalk, right? And this driver, I can see, like, if you're going at any kind of speed at all, how dangerous that could be. One of the things I just looked up too is that in Utah, we have had motorcyclists going over 100 miles an hour. And that, I can barely wrap my head around 5,000 people in Utah speeding over 100 miles an hour in their car. But if you're a motorcyclist going, one story from a couple years ago, there was somebody trying to evade police 120 miles an hour on a motorcycle.
Oh yeah, and it's not hard to do with those new bullet bikes.
That's
you can get up. You can get to that speed in seconds.
Wow,
literally in seconds.
Dangerous.
So Holly, last question before I go: if you hear this noise, Sunday at your house, and it's me, are you getting on the bike or not?
Nope.
Good answer.
Wave.
Good answer. When we come back after the break, after over 3 decades on death row, a judge has signed an execution warrant for Utah inmate Ralph Menzies, who was sentenced to die after the murder of Maureen Hunsaker in 1986. over the next 30 minutes, we're going to talk about this process and hear from a member of the victim's family. Stay with us.
9:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Amanda Dixon. KSL's top story: a southern Utah city is implementing new water restrictions due to an abnormally low water supply. KSL News Radio's Adam Small has details.
From now through October, people living in Beaver City will no longer be able to water their lawns between 10 a.m. and 6 p.m. when it's windy, or more than twice a week due to what the city says is extremely short water supply. KSL.com reports these are the kinds of rules they'd normally implement towards the end of the irrigation season, but below normal snowpack and faster than normal runoff have taken a toll on their available water.
Nearly a third of Beaver County is currently in severe drought. The National Park Service is encouraging hikers to check weather conditions when heading out after a hiker died at Grand Canyon National Park earlier this week. The 67-year-old from Texas was found unresponsive on the South Kaibab Trail. The exact cause of death is still being investigated. Our top national story this hour from ABC News: Australia wants a meeting with the U.S. president over plans to slap a 200% tariff on pharmaceutical imports.
It's part of President Trump's larger trade blitz. The 200% tariff on pharmaceuticals would encourage manufacturers to relocate operations to the U.S. Australia's Treasurer Jim Chalmers wants clarity.
We'll continue to engage with our counterparts in the U.S.
Prime Minister Anthony Albanese wants a meeting with President Trump. Last year, Australia exported more than $2 billion in pharmaceuticals to the U.S. Scott Mayman, ABC News, Canberra, Australia.
Your money at this moment. The Dow right now is up 274. We're at 44,732. Coming up, looks like we'll be a little bit cooler today, 10 degrees cooler. KSL weather is next. KSL News Time, 9:32. A reminder about the simplest way to get updated for your day.
Hit your KSL preset when you jump in the car, and we'll take care of the rest.
Hear key news updates and traffic reports.
Andy and Amanda from 5 to 9 in your car.
KSL News Radio at 102.7 FM. I am not a rich woman, but I feel like a rich woman every time I go in my closet. The best, hands down, present I've ever received was my husband secretly redid my closet with Closets by Design. So now when I go in there aren't all these shoes just junked on the floor. They're neatly sitting on their shelves. And my necklaces are hanging on their individual hooks, and earrings are in their little squares in this soft drawer that pulls out. It's just gorgeous. In fact, he saw how much I loved it. He had Closets by Design redo the garage. So now all the stuff, the tools, the toys, the junk is all in cabinets. When you open our garage door, you see cars. That's it. It's amazing. The things that Closets by Design can do, and it's going to save you money right now because you get up to 40% off plus an additional 15% off with 18-month financing. You can do so much with your closet, much more than you realize, with this wonderful Utah company, Closets by Design. Find out more at 1-800-BY-DESIGN or closetsbydesign.com.
Hi, I'm Utah tax attorney Jordan Wilcox. When the IRS invades your life, keep in mind, it's not just you.
My name is David. I was in trouble with the IRS. I owed about $140,000. It was a very stressful thing to know that you owed that much money to the IRS.
Don't face the IRS alone.
When I knew how much I owed, it was really, it's overwhelming. It's you worry about the whole, your whole world, what's going to happen.
With everything in your life at stake, don't trust just anyone.
Everything was said and done, and with the IRS offered me to pay $4,000.
You need someone to fight for you.
Do not hesitate. Do not think it twice. Go see Jordan Wilcox.
Visit endtaxworry.com. Put an end to IRS collection and aggression today. That's endtaxworry.com.
Anybody that needs help in this situation, please go see him.
endtaxworry.com.
If you're a medical, wellness, or aesthetics practice owner who wants to enhance your profits and practice valuation while reducing your workload, this is the message you'll want to hear. The Hamlin Business Institute is holding the most transformative business class you'll ever take on Friday, August 1st in Salt Lake City. As a practice owner, this class can literally change your life and revolutionize your practice. With a 5-star Google review rating and certification by the DOPL for select professions, this class is meticulously crafted to meet your specific needs. Their previous participants rave about their experience. A staggering 96% are interested in additional classes from Hamlin Business Institute. 100% would recommend this class, And more than 3/4 said it was the most beneficial continuing education class they have ever taken. Sign up before July 20th and get a 40% discount with the code BUSINESS at HamlinBusinessInstitute.com. That's code BUSINESS at HamlinBusinessInstitute.com. Code BUSINESS at HamlinBusinessInstitute.com.
Traffic and weather together, brought to you by Mountain America's Double Rewards credit card promotion. And here is Heather Kelly.
We still have some pretty slow traffic on I-15 in both directions, right in the midsection of the Salt Lake Valley. Southbounders have a crash just before you get to the I-215 South Interchange. That's blocking a right lane and shoulder. And then you have another crash at 7200 South in Midvale on the right shoulder. And all of that is creating speeds below the speed limit coming over from 45th South. But northbound 15 is even slower than the southbound side, and they don't have a crash. You're going to be crawling along between 7200 South and Midvale into Murray. Things are looking pretty good now, though, if you're coming out of Tooele County, and all the crashes southbound I-15 up in Davis County have cleared, and traffic is back to normal speeds. Take UTA instead of driving and actually enjoy your ride. Try UTA to see the difference. Plan your trip at rideuta.com or on the Transit app. Heather Kelly in the KSL Traffic Center.
Today looks like we'll only get up to 90 degrees, 91 tomorrow, 93 on Saturday before we're back up close to 100 to start the week. Right now, though, sunny at 81 degrees. I'm Amanda Dixon from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
The all-new Inside Sources. Inside Sources. Your inside access to the people and policies shaping Utah's future. Here are Greg Skordas and Holly Richardson on KSL News Radio.
After nearly 40 years on death row and years of appeals, a 3rd District Court judge here in Salt Lake County has signed a execution warrant for inmate Ralph Menzies, signed that yesterday, potentially paving the way for the first firing squad execution in Utah since 2010. KSL News Radio's Alec Cabrera was in the courtroom when the verdict came down.
It was a powerful moment inside a packed courtroom. Ralph Menzies, frail, bald, and wearing red-tinted glasses, was wheeled in with an oxygen tank just after 1 o'clock and recess. His attorneys argued he's mentally unfit for execution, pointing to his dementia and declining health. But Judge Bates disagreed, denying the motion to delay and officially setting the execution for September 5th. Maureen Hunsaker's son, Matt, smiled as the judge delivered the ruling. Afterward, I asked him if he believes this execution will finally happen.
Right now, I'm going to prepare for it. I do. I think so. Gather the family, talk, see who wants to be involved, who doesn't want to be involved. I'm preparing myself to go see somebody's life being taken from them.
Menzies' attorneys say they'll now appeal to the Utah Supreme Court, but for the Hunsaker family, today feels like justice. Reporting from the courthouse in West Jordan, Eric Cabrera, KSL News Radio.
And Holly, we'll hear from the Hunsaker family in the next segment, but let me just talk to you a little bit about the background of this case, because it's something that has almost followed my career just in terms of the timing of it. Menzies was sentenced to die after the kidnapping and murder of 26-year-old Maureen Hunsaker in 1986. She was the mother of 3, working at a Kearns gas station when he abducted her, and she actually called her husband that evening and believed that she said that she'd been kidnapped, but she believed she would be let go. 2 days later, her body was found in Big Cottonwood Canyon. There was a signature by Judge Matt Bates after Menzies was found competent to be executed on June 6th, but there was another petition filed, and that's what we just heard from Alex Cabrera, that the Menzies' attorneys had said, no, he's not competent. He cannot be executed.
Yeah, I mean, what I'm seeing is they went through a 16-month process to see whether he was competent enough to be executed by the state, and they found him competent in June. However, his attorneys are saying it's gotten so much worse. He really just is not competent. His dementia has gotten so much worse.
Yeah, and I think people need to understand this whole idea of competency as it relates to execution, because we often think about, is a person competent to stand trial?
Right.
It's different than insanity, which means were they too insane to even appreciate their conduct. But there's also this idea of competency. Is a person competent to help with their own trial? And we saw, for example, with Lori Vallow up in Idaho, she was not competent for some period of time. Mm-hmm. Her competency was restored through medical help, and she was later able to assist with her attorneys at trial. So Menzies was, at the time of his trial, competent. He was not determined to be insane, and he was convicted. But it's been since 1986, and in the interim, his attorneys have argued that he has lost competency, that he's got dementia. And under the law in the United States, and of course here in Utah, a person cannot be executed unless they appreciate the reason that they're being executed. They have to have an understanding of that. I know that seems kind of macabre almost, but
even if they already had that and then lost it,
right? At the time of the execution, they need to sort of tell the world, I know why this is happening, and this is the consequence for my conduct. If you don't understand that under the law, you're not competent to be executed. We can't execute, for example, children, anyone under the age of 18, or people who are mentally ill who don't appreciate that. And that mental illness or dementia or whatever you want to call it can be exacerbated over the time of what's almost 40 years. I mean, 39 years he's been incarcerated, and I don't know his age, but he's getting up there, and he's 67. I should be careful. So am I. So, but anyway, he's developed to the point where he may not have that competency. Now, there's a couple things that happened. There was a hearing a couple months ago where the state and the defense presented a lot of expert forensic testimony, a lot of expert mental health testimony, one saying he's competent, one saying he's not, and the judge ultimately ruled yes, he's competent. But a last-minute petition was filed, like Eric Cabrera just said, just as recently as this week, saying he's developed even more dementia. He's worse than ever.
Yeah, it got a lot worse. Yeah,
and the judge is saying we're having none of it. So he signed the execution warrant for the first week of September. Absolutely, there will be an appeal filed based on that.
So I was going to ask, so what's the process from here, and what are the chances of the execution actually going forward the first week of September, which is, 2 months away?
Yeah, I don't know. The judge made some really detailed findings on the first competency petition. The Supreme Court will have to address that. Can they do that by September 6th? The answer is yes. Will they? I don't know. I would say, I think it's unlikely that execution will occur on that day, unless the Supreme Court says we're just not going to hear it. But this competency thing is bigger, Holly, than maybe a lot of people appreciate. And I understand the victims, and we're going to hear from them after the break, just feeling the frustration 40 years after the fact. Why are we still addressing this?
Right.
Let's either get on with it or not. And of course, we just talked about that with the Brian Koberger case up in Idaho, where they said, we're not going to put victims through that. We're just going to put him in prison for life without the possibility of parole. But in this case, the death penalty existed in Utah at the time, and it was another kind of a weird thing. At the time that Menzies was convicted, Utah allowed a convicted person to choose his manner of execution. And in Utah, in 86, our law allowed that an execution could be by either lethal injection or the firing squad, and he chose the firing squad. And I think you said earlier, we haven't had a firing squad execution in Utah since 2010.
Right.
Because
Ronnie Lee Gardner.
Right, because people just didn't choose that manner of execution. We've got a new prison now out here toward the airport. I don't know if they've even got a area to do a firing squad execution.
Kind of makes me shudder, actually.
Yeah, I know. But that's the manner he chose.
I've seen pictures of previous people in Utah who were executed by firing squad. It's gruesome.
No,
but
it is.
Can he change the way he wants to be executed? I mean, that kind of plays into the argument: is he even competent? But could he go to a judge and say, "Never mind, I've changed my mind"?
Yeah, I guess he could, and I suppose the prison authorities would probably appreciate that, because lethal injection is so much easier, and they've got the facilities to do that. I mean, we had. Who was it? Honey, Tyrone Honey was executed by lethal injection just about a year and a half ago. So the authorities here in Utah obviously have the technology to do that. I mean, that was a big problem too, because of the whole medication wasn't available, and the drug manufacturer said, "Hey, we didn't make it for this purpose," and there was the state was having a hard time getting that, but Menzies chose firing squad, and that's what the state's probably going to have to do based on what the law was at the time he was convicted. If there is an execution, we'll see if that's going to happen, and if it does, if it'll happen here in about less than 90 days. Yeah. When we come back after the break, the son of Menzies' victim, Maureen Hunsaker, is on the line with us to talk about his reaction to the execution warrant being issued and signed, and that's after this break.
Do you know how to tell if a clogged drain is something to worry about or not? What's up, everybody? I'm Mike Wilson with Any Hour Services, and I understand it's annoying and inconvenient, but sometimes a clogged drain can be a sign there's a more serious issue with your sewer main line. If the drains in the lowest level of your home aren't draining, or you flush a toilet and it comes up somewhere else like a shower or a floor drain, I'm urging you to look at this as more than just an annoyance. The last thing I want you to experience is a sewer backup. If you're a homeowner experiencing any of these issues, the first step would be to snake the line to see if it's just a blockage, which one of our drain techs can do for only $29. Yep, you heard that right. Any Hour Services will snake any drain line with normal access for only $29. Sinks, showers, tubs, toilets, floor drains, laundry drains, even that sewer main line that connects to the city. We'll snake any line for just $29. For help with your drain issues, call Any Hour Services at 801-443-7700. You can Google Any Hour Services. You can even schedule online at anyhourservices.com. No one helps more homeowners than Any Hour Services.
Amanda, we love talking about Utah Community Credit Union, and guess what? They just got news that they saved their members over $40 million in 2024 alone.
And UCCU is opening 4 new branches in the Salt Lake Valley, which means 6 total now. They have 21st South, Taylorsville, Sandy, Magna, Harriman, and Draper.
And to celebrate these new branches, UCCU is offering some amazing opportunities. First of all, $150 cash just for setting up direct deposit with your UCCU account.
They'll give you up to $250 cash just for transferring any existing loan from another institution to UCCU.
And here's the big one, giving away 10 amazing prizes, including, get this, a brand new 2025 Jeep Wrangler.
So you heard that right. A brand new Jeep Wrangler could be yours, and no purchase is necessary. You don't even have to be a member.
Anyone can enter. It's easy. All you've got to do is go to uccu.com and sign up. So enter to win today.
UCCU.com. Find out more about Utah Community Credit Union, where you're going to love where you bank.
This is the story of the one. As a lineman, he does whatever it takes to keep the power on in his community. And he wants a partner like Grainger who does the same. Grainger offers the professional-grade products he needs, from voltage detectors to harnesses to hard hats, plus fast, dependable delivery, so he can rise to every challenge. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Progressive knows owning a home can be hard, but not always. Like when you're relaxing on your patio, enjoying a nice, quiet evening. So quiet. Except for the sound of the neighbor's party. Which you said you'd go to if you weren't busy. And your quiet night on the patio, that's not exactly busy, is it? Maybe you should just stay inside. At least Progressive's Home Quote Explorer lets you easily compare rates, so shopping for insurance is the easiest part of owning a home. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company affiliates and third-party insurers. Comparison rates not available in all states or situations. Prices vary based on how you buy.
I am down 50 pounds in 11 weeks, and this program works. The pounds melt off. It's amazing.
I let go of 50 pounds. It felt unreal. I was so proud of myself.
Get in the best shape of your life with Soda Weight Loss.
Just 3 weeks in, and pounds are dropping off very quickly. I am down 26 pounds in 3 weeks.
Summer is right around the corner.
Your summer body starts right here because Soda's summer savings are on.
Every single day, Soda Weight Loss is helping people let go of the weight without drugs, without hunger, and the weight stays off.
I tried other things, came to soda, just amazing.
I started on soda 8 months ago, and I have released 80 pounds now.
Summer savings, stunning results, only at Soda Weight Loss. Get started now at sodaweightloss.com. That's SOTA weightloss.com.
Soda is, say it with me, state of the art.
Over the years, you've brought them into your home. You were prescribed opioids after the C-section, when Dad injured his back, when your basketball star tore his ACL. Opioids helped with the pain, and you held on to them just in case. But did you know holding on to unused opioids puts your family at risk? Opioids are powerful pain-reducing prescription medicines, but most people who are prescribed opioids don't finish their prescriptions. So millions of unused opioids are sitting in homes across the country. And tragically, more than 100 Americans die every day from overdoses involving opioids. What can you do to protect your family? Remove the risk of unused opioids from your home. Pills, patches, or syrups in drawers, purses, and cabinets, anywhere they might be hiding. To find out how to dispose of them properly, visit www.fda.gov/drug disposal.
The new Inside Sources.
We're back talking about the impending execution of Ralph Menzies, who was sentenced to die after the kidnap and murder of 26-year-old Maureen Hunsaker in 1986. She was the mother of three, working at Kearns gas station where she was abducted. One of her children is actually with us today, Matt Hunsaker, the son of Maureen. Matt, thank you for joining us this morning.
Absolutely.
And what was your reaction to the hearing yesterday? And just to set the stage, we had another hearing regarding his competency. The judge said, no, I'm not going to forestall the execution. It's now been reset again for, I think, September 6th.
September 5th is the execution scheduled date currently.
What was your reaction to the hearing yesterday?
It was unexpected. I did go in there with some optimism, given the constant contemplation of his competency. Again, the family as we are a whole, we're not buying that, but we were very pleased, and for the fact that Judge Bates is, like he said, it keeps this going forward, and this now makes it a priority in the next 60 days that it's not just going to be slow motion. We got to get everything moving forward to find out what's going to happen, if he is going to be executed or not.
So, Matt, this has just got to be an excruciating process for your family that's dragged out almost 4 decades now. Can you speak to how that has been as you and your siblings have grown up and are adults now? Like, what is it like to be the part of the victim's family, to just watch a process just drag out for decades?
It's hard. The hardest part for me is knowing that what my grandma went through, having to bury a child of such a brutal nature, and she was valiant that she wanted him executed, and for her very own reasons of what he did to her and what he took from her. And it was hard to know that as her health declined and she got older, that she wasn't going to see this. And we did have conversations about this, but that is one of the hardest parts, is knowing that my grandma won't see justice. And my brother and sister, they have gotten involved. They are attending the hearings. Nothing will replace my mom, but this will ultimately seize a little bit of justice for what he did to her.
You know, we often talk about the accused and his competency and the crime, but we don't often hear much about the victim. And I know you were a young man, but what can you tell us about your mother? What would you like our listeners to know about Maureen?
She was an amazing woman. For many years, it was just me and her as a single mom, and she taught me a lot of values that I still have, and I still hold dear to myself. She was working to help the family, to support us. This happened in February. She had worked through the Christmas time to try to have some extra money for Christmas, and just continued with a little bit of extra money for the household at the time. And her sacrifice of trying to take care of her family ultimately cost her life.
So, Matt, what are some of your favorite memories of your mom, looking back?
Oh, Causey River. Unfortunately, it's the one that's the most. I don't share it ever, but this is the time. We would go tubing as a family up there. Family reunions were up there, and we would go tubing down the river up there, and that was one of my favorite things to do with my mom.
Yeah, it's got to be tough. Can you tell us Did you attend the competency hearings of a couple months ago when they were putting on the experts on both sides?
Yes, I've attended all the hearings since 20, 30 years, I would say. Since I turned 18, I kind of took this over. I did attend the hearings, and I heard a lot of stuff. And you know, Greg, you just said that you're 67. You know, I'm 50. A lot of the things that listening in there, I don't think anybody walked out of that courtroom thinking that they were normal. Everything that they talked about in there, everybody has. I feel like I have dementia after listening to all those experts describe those things. But one of the things that I want to comment on is that his attorneys keep putting out there that he is so bad that he doesn't remember anything of this. But they've yet to provide any proof and evidence that he wakes up in the morning and wonders, why am I in prison? What am I doing here? If I woke up incarcerated and I had no recollection of what happened yesterday, I would be asking questions. I would be concerned. I'd be frustrated. They've brought nothing of that. So from our standpoint as a family, this whole competency thing is a ruse, and other inmates are going to use the same defense in the future because they now have the keys of what Menzies did to drag his on for another couple of years. After everything was done, all of his appeals, he has no rights to anything. Then he starts throwing out I'm not competent no more.
So, can you tell us whether or not the state has given you any inclination about appeals from the decision yesterday, and if there's a likelihood that there will be another delay in the pending execution on September 5th?
Statutorily, I believe that there is no more delays. I don't believe the Supreme Court can delay it. I think they can only send it back down to Judge Bates. But I don't believe Judge Bates did anything wrong. I don't believe that his decision is going to be questioned. Of course, anybody that's been in this, and you yourself know that this is the last ditch efforts. They're going to file any and every appeal that they can, whether they're heard or not. Is up to the specific courts that they file them in. So there's always that possibility that there's going to be an appeal. There's always that possibility of a stay. This is our fourth time doing this, and this is the strongest I've ever felt like this is actually going to happen.
So, Matt, can you speak to what you think will be the result of this execution for your family's process? Will this bring closure is what I'm asking.
Yeah, this will definitely bring closure. This will be, is in my verse. This will be the last chapter to this saga, and I'll be able to start, a new book of life. It's. My dad said this to me last night. When this is all over, then what? Well, we're going to continue on with our lives. We just welcomed my mother's first great grandbaby this last Monday, my first grandchild, and it's been best put this. Right now, we just welcomed the life of a new child into our family, and it's time to have this execution happen to solidify justice for my mom for what was taken from this child. So, as a family, we'll move on. It's not going to carry much clout on us. 40 years, that's a long time.
Matt, this last question might be personal, and feel free to not answer if you'd rather not, but are there family members of Maureen that will be attending the execution?
Yes. Yes, there will be. I will be there. I will be there for my own reasons, and this, to anybody that's listening, to watch an execution is something that you've got to search deep in your soul. And you've got to know that he's going to have the last words. He gets to say the last things, and they can be detrimental to us. But I will be there. I can't speak for my brothers and sisters. They have talked about it, but I know for a fact that I will be there.
That was Matt Hunsaker, son of Maureen Hunsaker, the victim of the Ralph Menzies homicide, which occurred almost exactly 40 years ago, Holly. And we're coming to what appears and sounds more and more like some closure in that execution, now scheduled for September 5th of this year out at the prison.
Years and years of delay.
Which is, I mean, I've worked death penalty cases from both sides, and it is unfair to the victims when there is a 40-year time gap between the homicide and the ultimate punishment. Utah has tried to alleviate that a little bit by this whole idea of life in prison without the possibility of parole, and it literally means without the possibility of parole. But victims still feel like maybe there has to be a higher level of justice, and I completely understand that. And Utah still has a death penalty, and I think 2/3 of the states do, and the federal government has now reinstated the death penalty as a penalty for certain federal crimes. So we'll stay tuned on that one as well. Speaking of the courts, we're going to hear about a federal judge who has just blocked Trump's executive order stripping birthright citizenship. Does it sound familiar? Well, this one's a little bit different. Of course, birthright citizenship denies citizenship for immigrants' children. Despite a recent Supreme Court decision last month, a federal judge has blocked it again. We'll break that down after the break.
KSL FM Midvale.
KSL Salt Lake City.
From the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios, this is KSL News Radio.
Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Radio. I'm Amanda Dixon. KSL's top story, we're seeing a concerning number of deadly motorcycle crashes in the state. In just the last 8 days, we know of 3 motorcyclists who have died in crashes and another that was seriously injured. Utah Highway Patrol Lieutenant Cameron Roden says last year was the deadliest year for motorcyclists in the state in 15 years. And he says this year is expected to be even worse.
They're definitely overrepresented, and it's something that we just need to take seriously and do something about it.
Roden says there's a variety of factors as to why we're seeing so many crashes, but he says one contributor is failing to yield to riders at intersections. Police have identified an 18-year-old as the victim of a deadly rollover crash in Utah County. Utah Highway Patrol says Bo Davis Knight from Santaquin lost control during a turn near the town of Mosita. The car went off the road, through a fence, and rolled. He died on the scene. Our top national story this hour from ABC News: a federal judge in New Hampshire has issued a preliminary injunction blocking the Trump administration from implementing the executive order ending birthright citizenship.
The move by New Hampshire-based federal judge Joseph LaPlante allows for a class action lawsuit on behalf of all children born to parents in the country illegally or while here on a visa. The Supreme Court's ruling last month severely curbed a single judge's ability to issue nationwide injunctions, but class actions are a key exception to that new rule. Judge LaPlante has stayed his order for a week to allow for a likely appeal by the Trump administration.
ABC News national correspondent Stephen Portnoy. Your money at this moment, the Dow is up 223. That's 0.5%. We're at 44,681. Coming up, about 10 degrees cooler today for our daytime high temperature. KSL weather is next. KSL News Time, 10:02.
The sources where we get our news matters.
When you listen to Utah's Morning News, we want you to feel the stories are important to you and trustworthy. This is Amanda Dixon.
And I'm Andy Farnsworth. Join us weekday mornings on KSL News Radio.
5 guys walk into a JCW's and order burgers. A pastrami, a mushroom Swiss, guacamole bacon, a hickory barbecue, a ribeye steak, 2 onion rings, 3 french fries, a strawberry, mint, peanut butter, chocolate, and marshmallow shake, and not one left to tip. Because at JCW's, we don't ask for it. We think the price you see should be the price you pay. And all that, would you like to leave a tip stuff, is for the birds. JCW's. Quality and a lot of it. Open in American Fork, Lehigh, Provo, South Jordan, and Harriman.
Ooh, ma.
What was that?
That is business phone bliss with the Ooma Cloud phone system. It handles all our voice, video, and messaging needs.
You sound very...
Calm, I am. Ooma has everything I need to run my business more efficiently, like virtual receptionist, call routing, and video conferencing. And it starts at just $19.95 per month per user, plus taxes and fees.
Ooma.
Nice. Find your business comm at ooma.com/radio.
This message comes from Viking, committed to exploring the world in comfort. Journey through the heart of Europe on an elegant Viking longship with thoughtful service, destination-focused dining, and cultural enrichment on board and on shore. With small ships that bring travelers closer to the destination, there's more time to explore. And every Viking voyage is all-inclusive, with no children and no casinos. Discover more at Viking.com.
1-877 Cards for Kids. KARS Cards for Kids. 1-877
Donate your car today.
1-877 Cars for Kids. KARS Cars for Kids. 1-877 Cars for Kids. Donate your car today.
Donate your car today at carsforkids.org. That's cars with a K. Your car, running or not, can be picked up as soon as the next day. You'll get a maximum tax deduction and a vacation voucher.
1-877 Cars for Kids. KARS Cars for Kids. 1-877 Cars for Kids. Donate your car today.
Now accepting donations of land, homes, buildings, or any kind of real estate.
70 years ago, our founders knew why community mattered. And at Deseret First Credit Union, we've spent 7 decades showing how. From your first savings account to your dream home, we've been right by your side. This year, we're celebrating 70 incredible years of trust and service. Because at Deseret First, our legacy is built around you. Visit dfcu.com to learn more and join the celebration.
Traffic and weather together, brought to you by Mountain America's Double Rewards credit card promotion. And here is Heather Kelly.
We still have several crashes in play on I-15. One of them is southbound just after the top of the on-ramp from 53rd South and Murray. And all the vehicles are over on the right shoulder, but emergency crews are still blocking the right lane. They are in the process of starting to open up that one right lane as most of the vehicles are gone. But as you continue southbound, another crash at 7200 South in Midvale, also on the right shoulder. Then if you're northbound I-15, right over the I-215 South interchange in Midvale, Murray, there's another multi-vehicle crash. That's on the right shoulder as well. The good news is most of those are not causing any slowdowns right now. No matter the weather, your feet can feel fantastic. Find the Good Feet location nearest you at goodfeet.com. Heather Kelly in the KSL Traffic Center.
Today will be a little cooler, highs around 90, winds reaching 10 to 20 miles an hour. It'll be warmer through the weekend. Right now, sunny and 82 degrees. I'm Amanda Dixon from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
The all-new Inside Sources. Your inside access to the people and policies shaping Utah's future. Here are Greg Skordas and Holly Richardson on KSL News Radio.
At the end of the show yesterday, Holly mentioned that yesterday, in fact, was the 157th anniversary of the 14th Amendment's ratification. That's the one dealing with, among other things, birthright citizenship. President Trump signed an executive order revoking birthright citizenship, which was blocked by the courts with a nationwide injunction. Then the United States Supreme Court weighed in and said, hey, you can't do the injunction the way you've done it. Today, we're learning a federal judge once again has blocked Trump's order.
Right. So let's set it up a little bit. I mean, let's talk a little bit about what the Trump administration is trying to do by revoking birthright citizenship. First of all, the question is, can they even do that by executive order, right? Can you overturn an amendment to the U.S. Constitution by executive order, which is not what the Supreme Court ruled on.
Right.
They ruled on injunctions, which is what?
Yeah, so what the Supreme Court ruled on, it was what we called nationwide injunctions. In other words, a judge in a particular jurisdiction hears a case and says, you know what, I think the administration is doing something wrong, and I think it's unconstitutional, so I'm going to block it for the entire country.
Right.
And the Supreme Court said you can't just do a nationwide injunction. Some judge in Arizona or North Dakota can't issue an injunction that affects every state in the union. And so the interesting part of the Supreme Court's decision is it was limited to these nationwide injunctions. And the order said, no, a judge cannot do that. And so there were 3 judges that had done it at the time.
Yeah.
All 3 of those were limited to their own specific facts, their own specific plaintiffs in their own specific jurisdiction.
So when the Supreme Court made that ruling, again, they did not rule on the 14th Amendment. But when they ruled on the injunction, they kind of left a loophole. What was the loophole?
The loophole is exactly what we're talking about today, and that's a great question, Holly. The loophole is, look, we can't just do this for a case-by-case basis. But maybe if there's a class action lawsuit, in other words, a group of people coming in representing a class of people, in this case, the class would be people who are born in the United States to undocumented immigrants, and should they have automatic citizenship? Because that's what Trump's executive order was intended to block. So there was a class action lawsuit. It was brought in, I think, New Hampshire. It was, and the judge there issued a injunction now saying, you're right, you've got a class now. It's not consistent with the Constitution. I'm going to put a hold on this. However, the judge has stayed that for a week to give the Trump administration a chance to appeal that to a higher court.
Which they will do.
Which they absolutely will do.
Look, and it's not just people who are here undocumented, but people who are here on visas too, right? So if you come in on a student visa, for example, or even a tourist visa, I guess, right, and you have a baby here. So birthright citizenship goes back to slavery, right? It goes back to the era of slavery, and when it was originally passed, we understand that it applied to the babies of slaves who were born in the United States. And remember, when the country was founded, slavery was legal, and slaves could be counted as 3/5 of a person. So how dehumanizing. But it's been more than 150 years since we have had this in our nation. And I don't think it's really ever been questioned until this new administration has said, we're just going to get rid of it.
Yeah, and what Trump has done, what the administration has done, and the Supreme Court has bought into it to some extent, is to look at what the makers of the Constitution were thinking at the time. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Sort of original intent.
And.
I know. I'm not making the argument. I'm just making the point. So this was enacted. It wasn't part of the first Bill of Rights. It was the 14th Amendment.
Right.
It's 157 years ago, not 225 years ago. After the Civil War ended, granting birthright citizenship, and it's very simple. The 14th Amendment has several sections. I often think of it as the Due Process Clause, or giving the states their obligation to follow federal law if there's a conflict between the two. But the first line says, all persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States. So if you're born in the United States, you're a citizen of the United States, period. Now, taking the argument of the president, what he's saying is, that was intended to protect slaves, the children of slaves, so they couldn't just be deported. They were afraid at that time that southern states would say, okay,
we're shipping you back to Africa.
You're not a slave anymore, but you're also not a citizen, so we're shipping you back to the country of your origin, which I think everyone agreed made no sense. So they enacted the 14th Amendment. Now Trump's come forward and say, okay, if that's great, but did they really think about people who were born here to non-citizens, people who are born here to immigrants, or people who are here on, like you say, a visa, or they're just undocumented. They just happen to be born on U.S. soil. Does that just automatically make them a citizen? We've always assumed it has.
Yeah, for 157 years.
Right, and no one's challenged it until now.
Right.
And I think if you looked at the last Supreme Court opinion, if you read the dissents, they were kind of saying, why are we even deciding executive orders or nationwide injunctions or preliminary injunctions? Why don't we just address the whole constitutionality of this?
Yeah.
But they weren't asked to. And the people that wrote the opinion said, that's not before us today. But I think it was Ketanji Brown Jackson. It's like, what about the big elephant in the room? Is this even constitutional? Why aren't we addressing this? Now I think they've got the case to do that with.
Well, and that's one of the things that I'm seeing is that this will fast track it. People think right back to the Supreme Court where they actually can rule on this constitutionality question of the 14th Amendment. Everybody in the United States comes from an immigrant background unless you're Native American. But Native Americans were not actually granted citizenship in the United States until 1924. Is that so wild?
No surprise there. No surprise there at all. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know with our Supreme Court where this is going, whether they're really going to take a bite out of the 14th Amendment, the United States Constitution, after 157 years and say, hey, just kidding, that's not what they meant when they enacted this. I think that's going to cause a tremendous amount of consternation. Yeah. But on the other hand, I think promises made, promises kept, and Trump is saying we've allowed far too many people to be granted citizenship just because they happen to be here at the right time when they were born.
I think if the discussion ever becomes this is a states' rights issue and people can decide, I guess, right, that you're going to start to see birth migration. People will go to states where you say, yeah, you can be a citizen if you're born in our state, right? Go to California, you can have citizenship here.
Right, and I think that the whole purpose of this nationwide injunction and what the Supreme Court did was to do away with
to
that.
Prevent
so we
that.
don't have
that
50,
is, that's right.
50 different decisions.
50 different citizenship laws. That would be weird.
What constitutes citizenship.
Yeah.
One of the annoying money wasters in your budget, Holly,
I know.
is those subscriptions you started and then forgot about. Cha-ching. Congress wanted to make it easier to cancel those subscriptions, but that was just blocked by a court. We'll talk about both federal efforts and what Utah is doing about those annoying subscriptions when we come back.
I am down 50 pounds in 11 weeks, and this program works. The pounds melt off. It's amazing.
I let go of 50 pounds. It felt unreal. I was so proud of myself.
Get in the best shape of your life with Soda Weight Loss.
Just 3 weeks in, and pounds are dropping off very quickly. I am down 26 pounds in 3 weeks.
Summer is right around the corner.
Your summer body starts right here because Soda's summer savings are on.
Every single day, Soda Weight Loss is helping people let go of the weight without drugs, without hunger, and the weight stays off.
I tried other things, came to soda, just amazing.
I started on soda 8 months ago, and I have released 80 pounds now.
Summer savings, stunning results, only at Soda Weight Loss. Get started now at sodaweightloss.com. That's SOTA weightloss.com.
Soda is, say it with me, state of the art.
Why'd I go to the doctor? My heart would race just taking my son to practice. It didn't feel right. So I got checked out. Turns out I have atrial fibrillation, which increases the risk of stroke about 5 times.
Symptoms like irregular heartbeat, heart racing, chest pain, shortness of breath, fatigue, or lightheadedness can come and go. But if it's AFib, the risk of stroke remains. If you have symptoms, contact a doctor.
I'm so glad I did.
Visit notimetowait.com. Sponsored by Bristol-Myers Squibb and Pfizer.
Now there's a new way to take charge of your blood sugar. Introducing new Garlic Healthy Blood Sugar Formula from the makers of the nation's best-selling garlic supplement. New Garlic helps maintain healthy blood sugar levels with clinically supported levels of garlic, plus a custom blend of vitamins and minerals, and it's odor-free. Take charge of your blood sugar with new Garlic Healthy Blood Sugar Formula. These statements have not been evaluated by the FDA. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. Use as directed.
Hey there, it's Julie from Logan, where we know how to celebrate summer. First, something super cool when it's really hot. Logan has a new plaza downtown with music and games and a splash pad for kids. Well, I said kids, but hey, we don't judge. Jump in. Free Alive After 5 concerts and movies at the plaza Wednesday and Friday nights. Check out the calendar at explorelogan.com. Keep it cool by checking out live tribute concerts like The Monkees, Elton John's The Rocket Man Show, and the Neil Diamond Experience. If theater is more your style, see the musical Bright Star, Broadway's The Prince of Egypt, or the classic comedy The Importance of Being Earnest. After all, Logan is Utah's heart of the arts. Fresh mountain air is only 10 minutes from your hotel. Enjoy cooler temperatures in the canyon while you hike, mountain bike, picnic, fish, or sing yodelay-hee-hoo at the top of your lungs. Everything's cooler in Logan, and we've got a lot going on. Check out the calendar at explorelogan.com. explorelogan.com.
ZipRecruiter is the place. ZipRecruiter is the place for talented teachers, savvy software developers, and master mixologists. ZipRecruiter is the place where you meet all these people and more. That's because ZipRecruiter is the place for job seekers who are looking for new opportunities. In fact, ZipRecruiter helps 10 million people with their job search every day, so you can find the right candidates right away. Try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free.
I'm Ed Evans, CEO of Consumer Cellular. No, we're not one of the big guys. Truth is, we don't want to be. If you're over 50, Big Wireless probably has you paying for more data than you might need. You could be throwing away thousands over a lifetime. We're not here to be the biggest. We're here to bring you something we believe is better. Our plans start at just $20. You'll get the same fast nationwide coverage without the big wireless bill.
Call 1-888-FREEDOM or visit consumercellular.com/facts. Plans include $5 credit for auto pay and e-billing. See site for additional facts.
Getting help with plumbing repairs is easier than you think.
All you have to do is call Any Hour Services or schedule an appointment at anyhourservices.com. No one helps more homeowners than Any Hour Services.
The new Inside Sources.
Can I confess to something here, Holly?
Please.
I get these notifications every month that says your account has been withdrawn $12 or
right.
$6 for something you did, and I can't remember what it is I'm paying for.
Right.
But I just continue to pay it every month. Every once in a while I'll look at it thinking, what did I buy or what did I do? And can I just click something to make it go away? And it seems like the click is harder than the $12, so I just continue to pay it.
Well, yes, and people count on that, right? Businesses count on that. And I think what's even worse for me is if I pay for a year in advance because I save money, right?
Oh,
I save an extra month. I get 12 months, pay for 11. And then I don't remember. And then I see it like show up on a credit card statement. I'm like, what the heck is this?
I know. The credit card statement isn't all that descriptive.
Right.
It just says some word or name that you're like, I don't even know what that means.
Yeah. So these subscriptions, they can be difficult. And I had one recently. I can't remember what it was now, but it showed up on my statement. And I'm like, I should not be paying for this. I have not been using this for like several years. But when I went to the website to cancel, there was no easily accessible information on how to cancel. And so I literally sent an email to the company saying, hey, I can't find the process to cancel this subscription. And then they sent me an email back and said, we canceled it for you. Okay, right.
The reason we're talking about this is sort of good news, bad news.
Right.
The Federal Trade Commission jumped in for exactly what you're talking about, Holly, and enacted a rule this was in October that required businesses to get a customer's consent before charging for memberships and automatic renewals. And so especially automatic renewals linked to sort of the free offer. Hey, you have 60 days for free. And then
you're paying this.
And they said that at that time, businesses had to disclose when their free trials or other promotional offers would end and let customers cancel recurring subscriptions as easily as they started them.
Right.
That was the rule.
That's the problem.
That was the problem. So this was something that the Biden administration enacted through the FTC's as a part of what he called his Time is Money initiative, a government initiative announced last year with the aim of cracking down on consumer-related hassles. It seemed like a great idea, but it went to a court, and the court said, not so fast. And it's a really interesting ruling because the court said, look, the FTC has a right to do rulemaking. They have a right to change things unless it would affect the national economy by more than $100 million. So there's a threshold. You can't enact rules.
Wow.
In other words, once you get to the big ticket items, you've got to go through Congress or you've got to go through a more aggressive rulemaking process. So the people that are issuing the subscriptions are saying, wait a minute, you didn't follow the rules. They sued the FTC and they won. And the judge blocked it and said, you know what, we can't let this occur because this does affect the national economy by more than $100 million. In fact, the defendants, the FTC, the government was saying, no, it doesn't affect the economy that much at all. But even you and I know
$100 million, right? Those $70 a year add up. I'm interested in hearing from our listeners if they're out there, if they have a frustrating subscription cancellation story. Will you text us at 57500? We'd love to read a few of those on air. I think we're not alone. So yeah, $100 million, like that's a lot. But this rule, they put this rule out in October, allowed for public comment, all this stuff. It was supposed to go into effect on Monday.
Right. Yes, but it's now been blocked and it won't. So I mean, like I said at the beginning, good news, bad news. The rule seems to be something that is inevitable, but you've got to do things right. It was like when Biden tried to block student loans. Like, you can't really do it that way.
Well, that has to do with an injunction story, I think.
Right. Yes, but I mean, there are certain things you can and can't do just based on the stroke of a pen. And the FTC has rulemaking authorities, as they should. We don't want Congress to have to enact every time the FTC does something.
Look,
we give them certain powers. But that $100 million threshold is to keep some checks and balances in place so that you are doing things consistent with the national good.
Look, I think one of the things that this rule would have done is say, not only should it be as easy to cancel as it was to sign up, but you should be able to do it the same place. So if you signed up online, you should be able to cancel online. And it was that just that one that I did recently that I had to send an extra email instead of doing it on the website. I have another one right now where I canceled the trial subscription, but all they're doing now is sending me an email every day telling me that they couldn't charge my credit card. And I'm like, yes, that's because I told you to cancel it. I literally have to pick up the phone to call them, and I have not done it.
Yeah, I remember years ago when I was in college, I joined a gym that was kind of on the cheap, and I signed up for something, and I couldn't figure out, even the gym, they moved. It wasn't even available.
Gosh.
I couldn't use it. If I wanted to, I forget the name, and I wouldn't mention it anyway, but it was the hardest thing to get out of, because you sign something, and it's not an opt-out, it's an opt-in,
right?
And you get out if you dot all the I's and cross all the T's, which was almost impossible.
Yeah. These subscriptions, man, and it's one of the things that Utah looked at. They looked at it during the last legislative session. There was a piece of legislation that was run by Representative Cheryl Acton. It's now law, but it underwent a lot of changes. Todd Weiler was the sponsor in the Senate, but they were trying to do exactly the same thing. We want this to be easy for people to unsubscribe, right? And it kind of got watered down. And at the end of the day, what ended up passing is that subscription-based services have to notify their customers before any renewals are charged. So one of the things that can happen is that you get a renewal notice, but it goes to your spam inbox. I never check my spam.
Oh, right. I wonder, you have to ask yourself, in light of this ruling, this court ruling involving the FTC, whether a Utah law not necessarily supersedes it, because obviously it can't, but can Utah enact legislation that now seems a little bit inconsistent with what the Federal Trade Commission attempted to do, to do a similar thing? I mean, I don't know where that's going to go, or how that Utah law is going to sit now in light of this recent ruling.
I listened to some of the debate on this bill, and I can't remember everything for sure, but I think that might have been one of the arguments against the bill, is saying, we have a lot of these companies cross state lines, right? They're not
Right.
Utah-based companies, and so then looking at, okay, well, does it have to just be Utah-based? I mean, we've talked on this show a number of times already about the differences between state law and federal law, and where there may or may not be conflicts. And are you going to have 50 different, cancellation processes? Are you going to have 50 different citizenship, processes? Which I don't think that's going to happen. But that's part of the question, right? Is can you enact a law that only applies to your state? And if so, especially in an age of the internet and AI, how do you enforce that?
And you have to imagine that nationally there's a fairly significant lobby.
There is a fairly significant
that's
lobby.
going to convince our national representatives not to take similar action, or maybe it will. I mean, the people certainly want it. We all want to be able to get out of these agreements as easily as we got in.
Look, I think I don't know this for sure, but now the One Big Beautiful Bill has passed, maybe this is one of the next things that Congress will take up, because it's so common sense, right? I really hadn't heard a lot of pushback against this until all of a sudden the court is like, nope, never mind. It doesn't go into effect on Monday after all.
Actually, I was thinking when we started this that it would have been something to write into the Big Beautiful Bill that probably would have carried the day and wouldn't have been, I don't know, that hard to do. We did have one example of a person trying to get out of their membership was a gym membership. When I just tried to downgrade my gym membership, I had to pay a $50 fee. Canceling is a similar process. They don't make it easy. Another one, I had a phone service that continued billing me for 18 months after porting my number away.
That's terrible.
Right, yes.
Yeah, we have another texter that says, when I could not get a subscription canceled after many phone calls, I told my credit union to not allow the monthly charges. It worked. The billing stopped.
There you go. Yes.
That's terrible.
So, I mean, it's something that I think is going to be considered more nationally and locally. The FTC ruling has been stayed. Understandably, there's $100 million threshold. You can't just do away with something like that.
And then at the same time, though, to say, oh my gosh, so you're telling me that consumers are losing $100 million plus every year on subscriptions they don't want. That doesn't seem right.
Unless you're looking at the big picture, which is the economy. You're putting $100 million into the economy, and maybe that's the...
taking food out of your children's mouths.
I know. I can understand that. We'll see. I mean, hopefully this will change, and I can figure out how to get out of my subscription so I can avoiding that.
Yeah, that's super interesting. It makes me feel like, we need to tell everybody to get Gebhardt. It's like, why? Stop billing me.
Right. When we come back after the break, do you remember seeing that picture, Holly, of Pope Francis in a puffy white jacket?
I do, actually, yeah.
That image was AI generated, and while that one was sort of innocuous, deep fakes can be, deeply damaging. Our country is putting the power to respond to theirs in the citizens' hands. We had one even this week involving our Secretary of State,
Marco Rubio. That's right.
Whose image, or at least his voice
and writing style,
was sent to international
Yep,
leaders,
foreign ministers,
local congressman, and
a governor, I think.
a governor, state governor, saying, "Hey,
this is Marco Rubio."
Marco Rubio, and where's that going to end? We're going to talk about that when we come back after this break.
10:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Heather Kelly. KSL's top local story this hour. A southern Utah city is implementing new water restrictions due to an abnormally low water supply. KSL News Radio's Adam Small has details.
From now through October, people living in Beaver City will no longer be able to water their lawns between 10 a.m. and 6 p.m. when it's windy or more than twice a week due to what the city says is extremely short water supply. KSL.com reports these are the kinds of rules they'd normally implement towards the end of the irrigation season, but below normal snowpack and faster than normal runoff have taken a toll on their available water.
Nearly a third of Beaver County is currently in severe drought. The National Park Service is encouraging hikers to check weather conditions when heading out after a hiker died at Grand Canyon National Park earlier this week. The 67-year-old from Texas was found unresponsive on the South Kaibab Trail. The exact cause of death is still being investigated. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. Health experts are sounding the alarm this week as measles cases in the U.S. reach their highest numbers in decades.
The reason is because measles is very good at infecting people. It is the most contagious virus that exists on this planet. And right now, this surge is not just a surge, it's a warning that our public health protective barrier has cracks in it.
That's ABC News medical contributor Dr. Darian Sutton. Your money at this moment, the Dow has gained 246 points, the S&P 500 up 9, but the NASDAQ has lost 43. Coming up, very hot and no rain relief in sight. KSL weather is next. KSL News Time, 10:31.
Mornings are for recharging.
And they're for starting your day right.
We volunteer to join you in the car. Get news and weather at 102.7 FM during the most important part of your day.
Andy and Amanda, each morning between 5 and 9 on KSL News Radio.
It's Jeff Jr. from Trajan Wealth, and I've got something important to talk to you about, your 401k. If you have changed jobs, there are two very important considerations. You don't want to leave your 401k behind, and you don't want to roll it over into your new company plan without consulting Trajan Wealth first. 401ks will often have limited investments or age-based options. Since companies have to make choices to suit all employees, they may not be suited to you, which could cost you fees and money. When you roll over your 401k into an IRA, you not only keep your money growing tax deferred, but you also gain access to a world of investment options specifically designed for you. Trajan Wealth and our fiduciary advisors have helped thousands, and we can do the same for you. Call Trajan today at 801-899-7600. 801-899-7600.
Advisory services offered through Trajan Wealth LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor.
This is the story of the one. As a safety manager at a manufacturing plant, he does everything he can to keep his coworkers safe. From finding ways to reduce risks to keeping safety supplies in stock. And for that, he relies on Grainger. Grainger offers a broad range of quality products and next-day delivery, so he can always play it safe. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
If you've got a gas-powered engine, keep it running like new at every fill-up. Stable in-season protection is your engine's preventative medicine, cleaning and protecting the entire fuel system in season. In outdoor power equipment, prevent gum and varnish buildup that could cause a rough or non-running engine. For cars and trucks, increase fuel efficiency and power by removing deposits, ensuring your engine's long-term health. Stable outperforms the competition in independent lab testing. So at every fill-up, start with Stable.
Your electric bill is going to be higher for summer, but not if you get new windows from Advanced Window Products.
State-of-the-art double-pane windows and insulated frames, any style, any color, from a company that's been building them right here in Salt Lake City for 39 years. Not only are you buying local, but you're cutting out the middleman because they're the factory. You save 30, even 40% on your new windows, and you get a lifetime guarantee from a trusted local company. If there's a problem 5 years from now, they come right over and get things straight. And right now, you can save even more. If you call Advanced Windows for a quote, they'll give you an extra $2,500 off on 10 windows or more. Advanced Windows offers buy now, pay later. They have 60-month 0% financing. They always work out affordable payments, plus $2,500 off. So get your new windows for summer. Make the call now, 801-850-9100. That's 801-850-9100, or you can go to advancedwindows.com.
Traffic and weather together, brought to you by Mountain America's Double Rewards credit card promotion. We've got pretty good speeds now across the Wasatch Front. All of our earlier accidents are now gone. We do have your typical slowdowns, though, southbound I-15 from Kaysville into Farmington, where we have lane restrictions. Same story out of Tooele County. SR-36 occasionally slows down, trying to get onto I-80 due to those lane restrictions. But right now, we are accident-free. Common Spirit, hospitals, clinics, and caregivers, all connected to advanced healthcare in Colorado, Kansas, and Utah. Healthcare with Human Kindness is here. Hello, Human Kindness. Our coolest temperature for the next week is today, with a high of 90 degrees. By Monday, we'll be flirting with triple digits. Right now, it's 81 degrees and clear skies. I'm Heather Kelly from the KSL Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Inside Sources.
Experts have issued a new warning for public figures in the U.S. as an AI-generated imposter was caught trying to impersonate Secretary of State Marco Rubio, bringing a new threat to national security. Here's ABC's Christiane Cordero.
The State Department says it's unclear who was behind the scheme, but says there was no direct attack on its systems. Former Obama senior advisor David Axelrod sounding the alarm, saying, "This is the new world in which we live, and we'd better figure out how to defend against it because of its implications for our democracy and the world." Last year, a robocall in New Hampshire used an AI-generated voice of President Biden to urge Democrats not to vote in the primary.
Let's hear what that sounded like.
Bunch of malarkey. We know the value of voting Democratic when our votes count. It's important that you save your vote for the November election.
Right. I mean, we're talking about AI threats to politics, political figures, but there's a broader conversation about people using artificial intelligence to generate these deep fakes on celebrities. So if you remember last year, Taylor Swift had AI-generated pornographic images of herself that were just spread like wildfire online. Right. It's one of the things that can be so damaging. Well, there's a country that's stepping up and saying, "Hey, we have not kept up. Our laws have not kept up with technology, and we're going to jump on this right now."
Yeah, the country of Denmark is fighting this by giving citizens copyright to their own faces, and I assume that includes more than
their voices.
So that's genius in some respects. I mean, so then anybody that creates an AI, deep fake is violating copyright law, and there's some sanction to it.
That's right.
Because heretofore, I guess you would say, well, it's protected by the First Amendment,
except that you own it, right? Yeah.
Now, and you would have to prove an intent to defraud or intent to deceive. I think you talked about that yesterday. There has to be some, bad thought behind it. Mm-hmm. But now it's just it's a violation of copyright law to do it in the first place. I think that makes a lot of sense.
They have an exemption for parody, right? So you can get, I guess, people who say, well, this is funny. It's one of the things that's really interesting, I think, for people to start to think about what does this look like in a changing world. I mean, we just heard the State Department doesn't know who sent out these messages pretending to be Marco Rubio. Just think about the implications to national security if and when people believe those.
Yeah, and that's why I'm concerned about this Denmark law. Not that I think it doesn't make sense. It makes tremendous sense. But if you don't know who's creating the images in the first place, then it's a law that doesn't have a lot of teeth behind it, because you're not be able to find out who these people are
Yeah,
anyway.
that's one of the things that people are saying they're concerned about is that, especially in a global world, you could have, the Nigerian prince making fake images of you and then trying to blackmail you or whatever. I don't know. But one of the things I think that's important to note is that they're trying to be proactive. There's 90% of their legislators are behind this legislation. They're like, yeah.
In Denmark.
In Denmark.
Yeah.
In Denmark. And, the EU has a different form of government now as the European Union. Denmark just took over leadership of that. And so this might be a test case where they can expand it into Europe. And Europe has stronger protections for individuals, I think, especially when it comes to the big social media companies, than we see in the United States.
Is this the kind of thing, Holly, just having served at the state legislative body that you did, that the state could do something about, or do you think this has to be done nationally?
No, I think the state could, and I think nationally I think it can become part of our national conversation. But Utah has done a lot with social media and
That's
minors.
What I was thinking. Right.
So there's a lot of age verification requirements. Of course, there's pushback from the social media companies, but there's really some very detailed and explicit harm that has occurred to Utah youth. Some of them up to the level of taking their own lives, even because of things that are happening on social media. And I think this would fit right into that. And maybe they start with minors and say, if you're creating, in fact, we already have a law in Utah that says if you are creating AI-generated child pornography, that is against the law and we're going to come after you.
Yeah. And in fact, the Utah law involving minors was arguably upheld by a recent United States Supreme Court decision from another state.
That's right.
That had a similar law, and they said, yeah, that's fine. You can prevent and make it restrictions for minors to access certain adult content. So I think the same could very well be true for deepfakes, for these AI generated, and maybe the state of Utah, because we seem to be on the cutting edge of these things, and taking the lead nationally on a lot of these. So maybe it is something that the state can do.
Yeah, I think they can. And I haven't talked to any state legislators about this. In fact, I just came across this article this morning when I was working on the Utah Policy newsletter. I just thought it was so interesting that Denmark is saying, look, this is a problem. We can see potential for harm increasing, and so we're going to go ahead and be proactive. One of the things that's going to happen, is that people who are harmed by these are probably going to have to go to court and say, look, they took my image, they took my voice, they did this. I can even see a scenario where you've got high schoolers who do that to bully other kids in school, right? You can create AI-generated fakes of your fellow students and use it to bully them, cyberbully them, those types of things.
And we're talking about a Danish bill that would make criminal. They changed the copyright law there to make it illegal and criminal to share deepfake images of another person without their consent. Yeah. So they've got some teeth behind it. This is something that, like you say, we'll see where this one goes, but that's something that I think a lot of countries are going to bootstrap and say, hey, wait a minute, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and then you start to have best practices, right, where people say, okay, we've tried this, here's where we need to tweak. Our producer, Caitlin, let me know that students in New Jersey actually did use AI to make pornographic images of their classmates.
Yeah,
so,
and I think that we have laws in place now involving sextortion, with creating images, and certainly if they involve images of classmates who are under the age of 18.
That's right.
It could be
They're
a problem
minors.
all by itself, even if they're AI-generated images, because it's an intent to create, let's face it, child pornography.
That's right.
A child material that's going to be a problem right at the beginning.
Utah addresses that, yeah.
Yeah. Wow. That's Danish law. We'll see where that goes. And I'm surprised at this, that we've gone this far down the AI road and somebody hasn't thought of something like that before.
Well, I think again, it takes time. So when the deep fake came out of the Pope wearing the white puffy, parka, it's kind of funny, right?
Right.
You can have
because it's obviously not right.
I don't know. Yes. Well, did he go to the someplace where it's really cold? I don't know, but that's pretty innocuous. But our AI has gotten so much more sophisticated so quickly that's one of the issues. And so, yeah, I think it's good that people are thinking down the road. And again, you've already pointed out that Utah is ahead of the curve. That was one of the things with the One Big Beautiful Bill that we've talked about numerous times. But should the federal government have been in charge of all regulation? And of course, they pulled that part because Utah was one of the states saying, no, we're doing it already here. Please don't hamstring us.
Yeah, I'm wondering if you or I have been the victims of a deep fake. I'm wondering if anything that you see on your social, and I know you're active in a lot of things because of that blog you create every day, that if any of it if you've ever been the victim of a deep fake.
So I don't know.
That's what I mean, right? Because they're so sophisticated.
I will say I have been multiple times. I've had my social media accounts cloned, where they take one of my personal pictures, which would apply in this law. Actually, they take one of my pictures to create a different account. They claim. In fact, I've seen people do it where they're like claiming they're this person and they live in a different area, right? That's weird, and it's not cool. But it's not the type of deep fake I think that we're really thinking about. But even that is damaging, right? Yeah. It can hurt credibility and all those other things.
When we come back after the break, we've been talking about all week, Holly, emergency weather alerts. Now some lawmakers are trying to prevent shark attacks at our nation's beaches. How they want to do that after the break.
Can we talk about something difficult to discuss? Are you going through a difficult financial time? You have equity in your home, but nobody can help? American Home Loans has created the Bridge Loan Program to use your equity regardless of your credit at this time. The Bridge Loan can be used to pay debts, collections, IRS liens, divorce settlements, or home improvements. Call at 801-262-2221. That's 262-2221. This loan creates a bridge between now and a much brighter future. After COVID, one of their clients had over $85,000 in credit cards. Their scores were too low to borrow on their home. American Home Loans was able to save them $2,000 a month. And after 8 months, they qualified for a conventional loan and lowered their payments. The consultation is free and confidential. Please call them and see what they can do for you. The number is 801-262-2221. It's 262-2221, or go to AmericanHomeLoans.com. AmericanHomeLoans.com. NMLS 245422, Equal Housing Lender.
At KSL News Radio, we have a 30-year legacy of honoring Utah teachers, but we can't do it without your help. Please tell us about an important teacher in your life on the KSL Teacher Tribute Wall, presented by Cypress Credit Union. Each month, one lucky teacher wins a $500 gift card from Cypress Credit Union, a $250 gift card to Harmon's, plus season tickets to Hale Center Theater. Say thanks to your teacher today at kslnewsradio.com/teacher from Cypress Credit Union and KSL News Radio.
This Friday, join KSL News Radio and NPS from 10 to 1 as the movie show stops by. Then, browse and uncover what makes NPS so great. With 4 locations, NPS takes a new inventory every day. Then, they check all competitors' retail pricing before marking items down 20 to 70% off. You're invited to visit the movie show this Friday from 10 to 1. And that's the first step to discovering NPS. Visit npsstore.com to begin your own NPS adventure. npsstore.com.
This is the story of the one. As a lineman, he does whatever it takes to keep the power on in his community. And he wants a partner like Grainger who does the same. Grainger offers the professional-grade products he needs, from voltage detectors to harnesses to hard hats, plus fast, dependable delivery, so he can rise to every challenge. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Get in the zone, AutoZone.
Welcome to AutoZone. What are you working on today? Hey, that's the spirit. Right now, we're celebrating free with a free STP oil filter when you buy 5 quarts of oil and free Duralast brake pads when you buy 2 rotors. Like always, free battery testing, charging, and recycling at every store. Celebrate free at AutoZone, now through July 28th.
Get in the zone, AutoZone.
Restrictions apply.
Hi friends, Dan the Laptop Man here from PC Laptops. In celebration of over 32 years of serving humans in Utah with their computer and tech needs, we've slashed our prices. And these are the new 2025 models. Here's the deal. You can get our new 2025 S1 desktop with a blazing Ryzen 5 processor, 16 gigs of RAM, and over a terabyte of blazing fast storage on this promotion. We also have our new 2025 SM3 laptop with the Intel i5 processor, 16 gigs, and over a terabyte of storage for $999. You can take one home today for $9.99. And you also get the peace of mind of our lifetime service warranty. We also have 12 months special financing available, and they start as low as $29 a month. But hurry in because supplies are limited. Because at PC Laptops, we love you. PCLaptops.com. Take home a blazing fast 2025 model desktop or laptop for $9.99 at PCLaptops.com.
Most of us like to be out in the sun. That's why sunscreen and other safety measures are key to protecting your skin from aging and cancer. The FDA recommends using a sunscreen with a sun protection factor, or SPF, of 15 or higher. Also, look for broad spectrum on the label. That means both harmful ultraviolet A and B rays are blocked. UVA rays age the skin, UVB rays burn, and both cause cancer. But the perfect sunscreen doesn't count if you use it wrong. Don't need sunscreen on a cloudy day? Wrong. 80% of UV rays still get through the haze. Only use sunscreen at the beach? Nope. Anytime you're outside, UV rays attack the skin, so you need protection. And you have to reapply sunscreen every 2 hours. Remember, SPF plus broad spectrum equal healthy fun in the sun. Visit www.fda.gov/sunscreen for more information. A message from the U.S. Food and Drug Administration.
And expanded Inside Sources.
Still makes me nervous when I hear this. This is the theme from Jaws. We're not trying to make light of shark attacks, but legislators nationally are trying to do something to prevent shark attacks at our nation's beaches. I love this music, by the way. It just raises the hair on the back of my neck. Yes, lawmakers are trying to prevent shark attacks and have, as the summer season heats up, they've enacted some. Sorry, that music just keeps on going. They've enacted some, or they're in process of enacting some legislation. At least the House has. It's going to go to the Senate. Here's ABC's Allison Cossack.
At least 8 shark bites have already been reported this season, including a little girl in Florida who nearly lost her hand. Now the U.S. Senate is taking action, passing Lulu's Law, named after an Alabama teenager bitten by a shark last year. The law would allow authorities to send out cell phone alerts when there's been a shark attack, just like an Amber Alert or Weather Alert.
So here's my question. If it's going out after an attack happened, how is that helpful?
Well, I mean, I think it is helpful. It's better than nothing. You know, we started this week talking about flood alerts,
right?
And letting people know that something's going on. I mean, I understand you can't just preemptively say, hey, there's a shark in the area. Or maybe you could. There's a shark out there somewhere and getting everybody all worked up. But if there's been an attack or there's been somebody close
for
approach,
sure,
yeah, you should be able to do that.
Look, I saw this graphic yesterday. They had little dots for where shark attacks have occurred, right? These little purple dots, of course, they're along the coastline. There was one in the middle of Utah. What the heck? We don't have sharks in Utah.
Right, yes, right.
But we do have people who vacation and go to the beaches and things. And it's the chances of being bitten by a shark are very low, but they're not zero, right? So the question for me, again, raising this alert system, A, how are you going to get people to pay attention? B, are they going to actually have it turned on as they go to the beach, especially if they're not people who normally live by a beach? Do they know that they can turn on an alert system where they can, be told that there's a shark in the water? And
right.
then how do we, what are some common sense ways to avoid shark attacks?
Right. We're talking about a bipartisan bill named after an Alabama teenager, Lulu Gibbon. It's called Lulu's Law. Lulu Gibbon. One of 3 people bitten by a shark in a string of attacks off the Florida Panhandle last year. It's bipartisan legislation, and it would allow authorities to quickly deploy warnings through mobile phones, like you said, after a shark attack. Now, we had the same conversation just a day or two ago, Holly, about flood notifications,
right,
and whether or not and to what extent we can let people know that there's a flood.
Right.
And when we talk about cell phones, and the same would apply here, whether you're on the ocean or whether you're in the hills near the Guadalupe River or anything else, if you don't have your phone on, or it's 3 o'clock in the morning, or you don't have cell service,
right,
what good is it? Maybe none, but it's better than nothing. But we're also talking about, and this would seem to make more sense on the beaches even more than it does for what we're talking about, the floods, which is some sort of a siren alert, some sort of something where the lifeguards could flip a switch and get a siren that says.
I've never been on a beach where they have had a shark sighting. I'm assuming that there is some type of notification, right? Whether the lifeguards are using their bullhorn saying, get out of the water.
Right.
I'm not sure. But I know that in areas where these attacks do happen, that they do have a way of notifying swimmers, right? This is like, don't go in the water right now. I have to tell you about the Jaws music. I'm very familiar with the theme. I have never seen the movie, not even 1 second of it.
I think there were several. I think I've seen a couple of them. Roy Scheider was in the first one, and I forget his name. But anyway, it was I like that movie. It was well done, and you hear that music, and it makes you think about
That's
the
right.
shark thing.
Yeah,
and it was I don't know. It was a good movie, a theme that kind of ran its course after maybe 2 or 3 approaches. And then they tried to do one with orcas, but they're not quite as scary
I
as
don't know.
sharks.
I've seen some orca videos that are pretty scary.
Yeah.
But look, there are some practical tips. For avoiding shark attacks, and you just have to be aware. So I have a daughter who lived in Hawaii, and she loves sharks, but she would be careful, right, when she would go in the water. And there were some that were fairly innocuous, and some where she's just like, no, we're not going close to that. So if you are mindful of your surroundings, don't go in around dusk or dawn. They're more active during low light hours. You don't want to go right as to where the river and the stream kind of go right into the ocean, because they'll come up there just to get the fish. Rain, stay away after rain, because rain actually churns stuff up, and sharks can be attracted to that.
Stay close to the shore. Avoid venturing too far from the shore. Emergency assistance is more accessible near the shore. Avoid murky waters. Sharks might have a difficulty distinguishing objects in murky waters, so use caution there. Understand shark behavior. Swim in groups. Sharks are more likely to approach solitary individuals, so if you're swimming in a group, you can more likely avoid that. And avoid shiny jewelry that looks like the lures that we use when we're fishing.
Yeah.
Literally, reflective jewelry can resemble fish scales. Sharks may be interested in that and may be attracted by that.
Yeah.
Don't wear anything that looks like you're a seal.
If you remember, there were some commercials about people swimming in inner tubes, and that from the bottom
Right.
they look like hostess ho-hos or something, ding dongs, whatever they're for sharks. But I did ask my daughter what her best advice was also, and she said the same as you just said. Don't go in the water if it's murky. Know that it's their home. They're acting out of instinct. If you know a shark is around and you can't get to shore fast enough, don't splash, don't panic. And then she said, maintain eye contact. I can't imagine myself doing that. But
With a
she also,
shark?
yeah,
They don't
like back
they don't
away
like to be looked at.
slowly. I don't know.
The evil
but
eye.
she said she's never had a bad encounter with a shark, and she's had several. Here's a piece of advice that I thought was interesting. Don't urinate in the ocean. They're actually drawn to that.
Gross. I've swam in most every reservoir in Utah and the Great Salt Lake, and I've never had a shark even near me. So I feel really lucky about that.
You should feel safe.
Yeah. So
you should feel safe.
Feeling safe here in Utah. But good that the legislature is dealing with that. Again, these systems that we're talking about, whether it's to, we talked about avalanches, we talked about floods, we've talked about a number of things. People like to recreate. They like to get out in the environment. They like to swim in the ocean. And I've swam in the ocean. I've swam both oceans. And you want to feel safe, and you hope that people are sort of keeping an eye out for it. So, yeah, I think this is something that makes a lot of sense. And tourists don't want to be worried about a shark attack. That's the last thing you want to worry about when you're getting in the ocean.
Yeah, for sure. And, you still have to be able to hear the alerts, right? So if it's coming out over your cell phone, like an Amber Alert, those can be really loud. But I don't take my phone into the ocean unless I have, the water protection and I'm snorkeling or something like that. And even if I do, I am commonly out of cell phone range.
Yeah.
So that's another issue, right?
I don't know that I've ever even. I guess snorkeling, we've seen some smaller sharks.
I've
that
seen
are
some nurse
interesting.
sharks.
That don't seem to be a threat to anyone at all. But I have been in the water. I've never felt, even swimming off the coast of Hawaii or California or places that I've been, Mexico, I've never felt nervous. I mean, there were some barracudas that people told us to watch out for once. I remember that, but they they weren't a problem at all.
Oh.
And, they were just there.
They're scary
and
looking.
They have awful-looking teeth. I never felt nervous about a shark, and hopefully I never will.
Yeah, it's just, shark attacks are not very common. In fact, drowning, we'll talk about water safety a little bit later, but drowning is a lot more common than a shark attack. Yeah. But it still pays to be careful and aware.
Let's talk about water when we come back. A couple of southern Utah cities are implementing new water restrictions due to abnormally low water supply, and they aren't the only ones. More details after the break. But before we get there, this actually hits close home to me. I mean, in my particular area in northern Utah, east of Ogden, we got notification recently that we're going to get dinged on our water bills if we don't cut back our restrictions. And we got this chart that says, here's what you're using, and you need to dial it back. So
wow.
A lot of people, we got complacent with the snowpack that we had the last couple of years,
Yep.
Started thinking we had a lot of water. We really don't. Utahns, we're going to talk about that after this break.
KSL FM Midvale.
KSL Salt Lake City.
From the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios, this is KSL News Radio.
Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
11 o'clock at KSL News Radio. I'm Jessica Lowell. KSL's top story this hour. We're seeing a concerning number of deadly motorcycle crashes in the state this year. One of the recent crashes was a 17-year-old who died in Weber Canyon. KSL News Radio's Adam Small has more.
In just the last 8 days, we've had several fatal crashes involving motorcycles along the Wasatch Front, and it's really a microcosm of a larger problem we've been seeing over the last year and a half. Utah Highway Patrol Lieutenant Cameron Roden tells me last year was the deadliest year for motorcyclists in our state in 15 years, and he says this year is on pace to be even worse.
They're definitely overrepresented, and it's something that we just need to take seriously and do something about it.
Roden says there's a variety of reasons as to why these numbers are rising, but one contributor, he says, is failing to yield to riders at intersections. That's why he's pleading with drivers and motorcyclists to double check your blind spots and be aware of others around you on the road.
We have to work together.
Adam Small, KSL News Radio.
Our top national story this hour from ABC News. The search continues in Kerr County, Texas. More than 160 people are still missing after last week's floods. Patrick Turk is a first responder for a nonprofit called TechSAR and explains why the search is taking as long as it is and what conditions responders are under.
So the search area is roughly 48 miles of river from where the original flood began to Canyon Lake is roughly 48 miles. So that's an immense area to cover.
The floods are the deadliest from inland flooding in the U.S. since 1976. Your money at this moment, a mixed day on Wall Street. Dow up 241 points, NASDAQ down 4. Coming up a little cooler today, but temperatures are ticking up. KSL weather is next. KSL News Time, 11:02.
Reminder about the simplest way to get updated for your day.
Hit your KSL preset when you jump in the car, and we'll take care of the rest.
Hear key news updates and traffic reports.
Andy and Amanda from 5 to 9 in your car.
KSL News Radio at 102.7 FM.
Hey there, it's Julie from Logan, where we know how to celebrate summer. First, something super cool when it's really hot. Logan has a new plaza downtown with music and games and a splash pad for kids. Well, I said kids, but hey, we don't judge. Jump in. Free Alive After 5 concerts and movies at the plaza Wednesday and Friday nights. Check out the calendar at explorelogan.com. Keep it cool by checking out live tribute concerts like The Monkees, Elton John's The Rocket Man Show, and the Neil Diamond Experience. If theater is more your style, see the musical Bright Star, Broadway's The Prince of Egypt, or the classic comedy The Importance of Being Earnest. After all, Logan is Utah's heart of the arts. Fresh mountain air is only 10 minutes from your hotel. Enjoy cooler temperatures in the canyon while you hike, mountain bike, picnic, fish, or sing yodelay-hee-hoo at the top of your lungs. Everything's cooler in Logan, and we've got a lot going on. Check out the calendar at explorelogan.com. explorelogan.com.
Over 3/4 of Americans will experience foot pain, and most will just live with that pain every day. But Foot Solutions in Orem is here to change that. Here's Amanda from Provo.
I am an active woman, ex-Division I basketball player at BYU. By trade, I'm a PE teacher. Over the last 2 years is when my feet really started hurting.
And that's when Amanda's life changed with a visit to Foot Solutions in Orem.
My experience at Foot Solutions was so unique to any other experience I've had. Over an hour they spent with me, really going over my specific pain points.
After discovering so many solutions and custom in-house made orthotics, what does Amanda want you to know?
Invest in your health. Don't be cheap to your feet. Living a pain-free, active life again has been worth every cent.
Just search for Foot Solutions in Orem and find out more at footsolutions.com.
I'm Amanda from Provo. I'm 47 years old, and Foot Solutions has given me back a pain-free, active lifestyle.
If you have unfiled taxes or are in debt to the IRS, this is important news. Did you know the IRS has programs specifically designed to help people struggling with tax debt? Powerful tax assistance programs that can save you thousands if you qualify. No one knows these programs better than the experts at Optima Tax Relief, America's most trusted tax resolution firm. A+ rated by the Better Business Bureau, their award-winning tax attorneys and licensed professionals have resolved over $1 billion of tax debt for their clients. One call to Optima can start the process, helping to put an end to your worries about wage garnishment, asset seizure, and other aggressive IRS actions. Find the best options to solve your tax problems. Call the experts at Optima Tax Relief today for a free consultation.
Call 800-343-6460. 800-343-6460. 800-343-6460.
Optima Tax Relief.
Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
Traffic and weather together brought to you by Mountain America's Double Rewards credit card promotion. Here's Heather Kelly.
We've got a little bit of congestion right where SR 36 merges onto eastbound I-80 in Tooele County. That is very typical and it's going to happen all day long as you've got lane restrictions. Right now, speeds are good southbound I-15 between Kaysville and Farmington, but that too does have lane restrictions, so from time to time, you're going to slow down and back up into the Kaysville area. After that, though, you've got pretty good speeds all the way into Salt Lake City and no accidents reported right now. Deseret First Credit Union is turning 70, and now it's their turn to say thank you with special member giveaways happening all year long. Visit dfcu.com to learn more. Heather Kelly in the KSL Traffic Center.
Highs back in the low 90s, but we'll see temperatures tick up over the next week. Mostly sunny skies in the forecast. Right now it's 82 degrees and sunny. I'm Jessica Lowell from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
The all-new Inside Sources. Inside Sources. Your inside access to the people and policies shaping Utah's future. Here are Greg Skordas and Holly Richardson on KSL News Radio.
We're coming out of a 4th of July weekend, Holly, when the central part of Texas was hit by water and floods that are once in 1,000 years. Something like
incredible amounts.
Something like 26 feet of the river there rose 26 feet, and we've been talking about that all week. We know now that there are at least 120 dead and 170 people or more still missing. At the same time, here in Utah, we're having a drought that seems to be never ending and maybe is getting worse than before. One southern Utah city is implementing new water restrictions due to an abnormally low water supply. KSL News Radio's Adam Small has the details.
From now through October, people living in Beaver City will no longer be able to water their lawns between 10 a.m. and 6 p.m. when it's windy or more than twice a week due to what the city says is extremely short water supply. KSL.com reports these are the kinds of rules they'd normally implement towards the end of the irrigation season, but below normal snowpack and faster than normal runoff have taken a toll on their available water.
So, yeah, what they're saying is that these are restrictions that we usually have in August or September. Here
Right.
we are July 10th, and we're saying don't water your lawn more than you absolutely have to.
Well, it's enough to barely keep it alive, right?
Yeah, Clearfield City has been asking its residents to pause outdoor watering as they deal with an electrical issue to their water pumps. Sandra Rushton, communications manager for Clearfield City, said on Midday with Maria Chaleos it's putting the city at risk of draining its water reserves.
Temperatures have been high, so people are at their peak water usage. We quickly realized that if residents do not pull back on outdoor watering to give us time to fix the issue, there could be water shortages or low water pressure throughout the city.
And she did indicate that the city's working as hard as it can to repair the damage, but at this point, they don't even know when it'll be fixed. We also heard that Mount Pleasant City has announced water restrictions on their social media. Their irrigation system is currently shut off to allow their pond to refill, and once it's refilled, they may reinstate some of those water. But that's all over the state. I mean, we're down in Beaver, in Mount Pleasant, and up in Clearfield. Drought has hit the state about as hard as it has ever.
Yeah, I think the Mount Pleasant City, that one is really interesting to me. I mean, and concerning, right? Because they have an irrigation pond basically where they can send water out, and over the 4th of July weekend it went dry. And that water is coming from streams, right? Mountain streams, and they're just saying the runoff is just so low, and then the use was high that they literally had to shut off any water coming out of that pond so that they could let it refill. It's really, really serious.
Yeah, and we've got a place down in central Utah that I've talked about a few times in Wayne County. The water there is really bad too, and our home up in the Ogden Valley, like I said before the break, we're getting notifications to dial back your lawn watering. And like I said before, we've got the mountains above us up there in Ogden, Powder Mountain, Snow Basin, and we think, oh, look at all that water. It's going to come down, but it's not there anymore. Yeah. And you look at even the springs and some of the other rivers that are feeding into the big Ogden Basin there, Pineview Reservoir, there's not much coming in there. And that reservoir is still at a fairly decent level, but it's not going to go up. It's going to continue to go down as we approach winter.
Yeah, for Mount Pleasant, they're telling their residents that they have to follow the water restrictions once they can water. They can only water twice a week outside, or they can face fines starting at $150. And if you remember before we had the really good snow year, we were in a drought. It had lasted for a long time, and I think municipalities across the state had implemented watering restrictions. And down where I live, they said if you have an even number, you can water on these days of the week. It was 3 days a week, right? And I think it was the Monday, Wednesday, Friday. But they would put a notice on your door if you watered on the wrong day. And I did one time. I got a notice immediately on my door, and it was like, if you don't fix this immediately, it's a $150 fine. But the second infraction is $500. I was highly motivated to comply.
That's what gets people motivated. Additionally, the cost of repairs for a lot of Utah's infrastructure across the state is looking bad, according to the Division of Water Resources. And what they're saying is that there's an estimated $17.5 billion worth of need out there just to get our infrastructure for water back up to speed, let alone the water drops itself.
Yeah, our infrastructure is old here. We know that. Last month, Salt Lake City asked residents to start conserving water. There was a really sharp rise. We've talked about this too. There was a sharp rise in demand for water, up 5% from the last 3 years. Outdoor watering's up 10%. And so I think people still have that idea that, like you said, we don't need to worry about water anymore. But of course, we do need to worry about water. We live in Utah.
Yeah, and we like our lawns. We appreciate those. We like our golf courses. We like our recreating. But we're still a desert. You can't look at it any other way than that. And we still get our annual rainfall is much less than the daily rainfall they got in Central Texas.
Right.
I mean, we don't get that much in a year.
Yeah, that's true.
And they had these storms that come in, two days in a row and that are continuing and not that far away. But yeah, we're in a severe drought in Utah. It's getting worse, and the complacency that we got we had some bigger than normal snowpack, I think 2 out of the last 4 years, which gave people like, we can start watering our lawns again. We're going to be fine.
Yeah,
but no, that's not the case at all.
Yeah. So we're going to pivot slightly, I think, on a water story. And this is something I saw this morning in the Washington Post, and the headline caught my eye. Brain-eating amoebas are rare, but hot weather increases the risk. So this whole article is about swimming in freshwater lakes. You can get a brain-eating amoeba, and actually they're fatal, right? So they happen rarely.
Thank you, Holly.
They do happen in Utah. It has happened in Utah. There was a Utah toddler who died a couple of years ago from a brain-eating amoeba. Again, it's rare, but it can happen. It can even happen from those neti pots that people use to irrigate their nostrils. It doesn't hurt you if you swallow the water, but if you get it in your nose, it can go right to your brain and it'll kill you.
I had no idea. I don't even know what you're talking about. A Yeti pot?
A neti pot.
Neti
so
pot.
it's NETI, and they're literally little like clay pots, and you can snort water up into your nostrils. It helps clean stuff out, clean out your sinuses and stuff. But there have been some cases of the fresh water being infected with these amoebas.
Do you know, have you seen if there's let's say you're going boating, you're going water skiing in any of our reservoirs, is there something you can do, like earplugs or
nose plugs?
Yeah, anything. Is it normally coming through the?
Yeah, it really only comes in through your nose. So they're saying try not to get fresh water in your nose. It says don't jump in. These are recommendations from the Washington Post article. It can also be in the soil. It can live in freshwater silt. You know, that bottom layer that's kind of all goopy. They can also live in rivers and ponds and swimming pools, canals, water parks. Unfortunately, I saw one death occurred from a splash pad, different state, not our state, but the water from the splash pad was infected. Household tap water, even puddles. So again, even less common than a shark bite, but the risk is not zero.
And it seems like it's one of those things that once you got it, you're
not going to survive. Yeah.
Yuck. Oh, when we come back, this Sunday marks 1 year since a gunman opened fire on then-candidate Trump at a rally in Butler, Pennsylvania, killing a supporter and injuring the president. A new wave of suspensions have been announced in the investigation into the attempted assassination. More on that when News Nation joins us after the break.
If you're a medical, wellness, or aesthetics practice owner who wants to enhance your profits and practice valuation while reducing your workload, this is a message you'll want to hear. The Hamlin Business Institute is holding the most transformative business class you'll ever take on Friday, August 1st in Salt Lake City. As a practice owner, this class can literally change your life and revolutionize your practice. With a 5-star Google review rating and certification by the DOPL for select professions, this class is meticulously crafted to meet your specific needs. Their previous participants rave about their experience. A staggering 96% are interested in additional classes from Hamlin Business Institute. 100% would recommend this class, and more than 3/4 said it was the most beneficial continuing education class they have ever taken. Sign up before July 20th and get a 40% discount with the code BUSINESS at HamlinBusinessInstitute.com. That's code BUSINESS at HamlinBusinessInstitute.com. Code BUSINESS at HamlinBusinessInstitute.com.
I am down 50 pounds in 11 weeks, and this program works. The pounds melt off. It's amazing.
I let go of 50 pounds. It felt unreal. I was so proud of myself.
Get in the best shape of your life with Soda Weight Loss.
Just 3 weeks in, and pounds are dropping off very quickly. I am down 26 pounds in 3 weeks.
Summer is right around the corner.
Your summer body starts right here because Soda's summer savings are on.
Every single day, Soda Weight Loss is helping people let go of the weight without drugs, without hunger, and the weight stays off.
I tried other things, came to soda, just amazing.
I started on soda 8 months ago, and I have released 80 pounds now.
Summer savings, stunning results, only at Soda Weight Loss. Get started now at sodaweightloss.com. That's SOTA weightloss.com.
Soda is, say it with me, state of the art.
Tim Jr. here from RGS Exteriors. I want you to know that it's the little things that count. Any remodeler can say they treat customers right when it comes to siding, gutters, windows, and exteriors. It's hard to know for sure. If a contractor uses cheap generic nails instead of super grippy ridge shaft nails for your siding, would you even know? If they use cheap $4 caulk to install your new windows instead of paying $9 a tube for the good stuff, could you tell by looking? It all comes down to the details and trust. At RGS Exteriors, we only do things one way, the right way. We never cut corners. We never skimp on details. We never do less than the job requires. That's why we offer our industry's exclusive 10-year everything guarantee. And it's why we have the happiest customers. If you need any gutters, siding, or replacement windows, call RGS Exteriors at 801-280-3110 or visit rgsutah.com. That's 801-280-3110 or online at rgsutah.com.
Hey gang, it's Big Jim Smith. I am now retired and I'm a full-time radio listener, and I'm glad I am. I had a unique situation of not being able to refi my house because I'm not employed. Despite the fact that I have lots of income, I have tons of assets, overcoming some hurdles made it impossible to get things together with banks or credit unions. So I contacted a guy I heard about right here on the radio, Rick Kirchenbaum at Loans by Rick. Best phone call I've ever made. Rick and his team at Vintage Lending were able to help me overcome some incredible hurdles, how to verify my income, all the things I needed to do to get my refi together, and they got me more cash out of my house than I expected. Do it. If you have problems getting your financing together, call Loans by Rick. You can trust Rick Kirchenbaum, Loans by Rick, and Vintage Lending. He is NMLS number 241179. Call him directly at 801-809-7283. That's 801-809-7283. Tell him Big Jim sent you. Loans by Rick.
Getting help with electrical repairs is easier than you think. All you have to do is call Any Hour Services or schedule an appointment at anyhourservices.com. No one helps more homeowners than Any Hour Services.
When it comes to vaping, the truth can get clouded. So let's make it clear. Vaping is not safe for kids, teens, or young adults. It's just not.
Because vaping can put microscopic particles into your lungs.
And dangerous things like metals and volatile organic compounds into your body.
And nicotine, the same highly addictive substance found in regular cigarettes.
Nicotine can harm a person's brain development through their mid-20s.
Affecting learning, memory, attention, and impulse control, and priming the brain for other addictions.
Vaping products also come in kid-friendly flavors that can make them appealing to youth.
And many kids also use other drugs, like marijuana, in vaping devices.
With appealing flavors, high nicotine levels, and lots of promotion on social media,
many kids think vaping is harmless, but it's not.
So talk to your kids about the risks of vaping, because when you talk, they hear you.
For more information, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov.
You trust us for news and information in your car. Now trust us at home. KSL News Radio has you covered, keeping you informed on the latest breaking news, weather, traffic, sports, and more. Listen on your Amazon Echo or Google Home device. Just say, Alexa, open KSL News Radio. Or listen on the KSL News Radio Listen app. Text the word app to 57500. KSL News Radio. We have you covered.
And expanded Inside Sources. Inside Sources.
July 13th marks the one-year anniversary, Holly, of then-President Donald Trump being shot in the ear by a gunman perched on a roof of a nearby building at a rally in Butler, Pennsylvania. We've learned that the shooter fired as many as 8 rounds from an AR-style rifle while he was on top of the building from about 200 or 300 yards away. Of course, shot candidate Trump in the ear. It was a really frightening situation. In fact, a man was killed. A firefighter who happened to be at the scene was killed. But the reason we're talking about it today is because we've learned that 6 Secret Service agents that were there have now been suspended over their conduct during that attempted assassination.
Yeah, it's one of the things that I remember was just so shocking during a presidential campaign. And then, of course, even immediately people were saying, well, how did that even happen? How did Secret Service let this person get on the roof? I remember those conversations from a year ago. It just dominated the news cycle, right, for a while, it felt like.
Yeah, and when you think about being shot in the ear from 200 or 300 yards away, I mean, that means you're
millimeters away, really.
I mean, from something
from death
that would have been just absolutely awful. Yeah. And in fact, there was a person behind the scene that was killed. But if you remember that, I mean, Trump is talking. We're seeing some replaying video of that. He sort of turns to his right, and the bullet just goes right by his cheek and hits him in the ear. Of course, he goes down immediately, and he's surrounded by Secret Service agents, some of whom now are facing some level of suspension for whatever. It's hard to imagine, because it seemed to me that they acted appropriately, and unless part of it is involving their conduct allowing it to occur in the first place, because it seemed like they all jumped in and put their own lives at risk, surrounding him,
right?
So that if any other bullets
getting him
came,
to the ground,
they were the ones that were going to be there.
I just remember the conversation at the time from a year ago. Is like, how did that guy get on the roof? How come they didn't have a more secure perimeter? right? When this assassination attempt occurred, he had a second one later as well. But the Secret Service has come under fire, and it's the fact that it's taken a year is kind of interesting to me, that it has taken that long for people to come to a decision on what's going to happen.
Yeah, and after this, of course, the Department of Homeland Security did an investigation, and they showed that a series of law enforcement breakdowns had created an environment that left Trump, quote, vulnerable to a would-be assassin. And they say this: the Secret Service does not perform at the elite levels needed to discharge its critical mission. The Secret Service has become bureaucratic, complacent, and static, even though risks have multiplied and technology has evolved. The Secret Service director at that time, Kimberly Cheadle, resigned just 10 days after the shooting.
Wow, yeah.
So we have with us News Nation Washington correspondent Kelly Meyer to help us understand this. Kelly, thank you for joining us.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
What do we know so far about these suspensions of these 6 Secret Service agents?
Yeah, we've been getting more details in and talking with some Secret Service sources, just exactly what this would look like. We saw that they would be suspended for various lengths, up to 6 weeks. We also know that they could be suspended for a range of 10 to 42 days, is what a Secret Service source is telling us. And we also know that when they return to work, they are expected to be placed in restricted duty with less operation duties. Those were some of the notes that we had from a Secret Service source to News Nation. So it's interesting, though, the timing of all of this, obviously coming just days before the one-year anniversary of this assassination attempt, and just the length of time it's taken to really hold people accountable. But the Secret Service is saying that they are totally accountable for what happened in Butler.
So what do we know about the investigation? Is it still ongoing, or is this has it concluded and wrapped up, and now we know what's going to happen?
Yeah, I mean, it seems to be still ongoing. I mean, also, just with the second assassination attempt last year, that Ryan Ruth has an additional hearing today, and he's asked for a new defense team. And then we saw that all kind of spurred the resignation of the then Secret Service director. We saw that there were additional congressional hearings and investigations. So it seems like this is ongoing. I was just going to go back into the White House press lower office and ask them, if they have any comment on all of this and just the length of time this has taken, if there will be more, can we expect more? There is reports too that these some of the agents are going to appeal this. So there is a lot of questions still surrounding this even a year later.
So we're speaking with News Nation Washington correspondent Kelly Meyer about the 6 Secret Service agents suspended over the attempted Trump assassination. What do we know about the alleged misconduct, or what it is that caused these suspensions?
Yeah, it seems like that's something that they're still looking into. I think it seemed as though what they're looking at is how they prepared for this, their advance. We know from trips that we go on with the president that Secret Service goes out up to 2 weeks or more in advance of a trip, and that's called advance. And they, get a lay of the land. They find out where there could be potential vulnerabilities. And it seems like a lot in the planning of all of this where they missed the mark, but then also on the day of things that could have been done. So it really has changed the Secret Service going forward. We know also more visibly, we can see that the president and even as candidates stood behind bulletproof glass for the remainder of his outdoor events. We saw that just when we were at the Army Parade here in Washington, D.C. That has changed forever going forward, how they handle his outdoor events. So there's been some changes, but there still seems to be a lot of unanswered questions.
So it looks to me in some of the news stories that I am seeing, Kelly, that the suspensions actually happened in February, which is like 4 or 5 months ago. Why are we just hearing about it now?
Yeah, and it seems like this is all coming to light. It's a question around, too, like, is this because of the anniversary that the timing of this is being officially released? Is this why is all this information coming to light now that we're getting closer to that date? So there's still questions around that, why this was released now and wasn't really more transparent to begin with.
And it also seems, based on what you've described as the suspensions themselves, that 10 to 42 days, I mean, there weren't any terminations, but the suspensions maybe symbolic in some respect.
Yeah, it seemed like and then when they said they would go back, it would be less less operational duties or things of that nature, so it wouldn't be the same position, but they weren't being essentially fired. And some people may want to see them more held accountable and held to a higher standard in some ways, or maybe potentially be fired from that job. So there's still critics that are saying that more could be done.
What are the Secret Service saying about this as an agency? Have they chimed in at all, or are they just accepting the consequences?
Yeah, we said they did give an interview to CBS News, and I could read off one of the statements they gave there. It said, quote, "The answer is Secret Service is totally accountable for Butler. Butler was an operational failure. We are focused on today ensuring that it never happens again and executing our strategic plan to increase technology, to improve communication, and to make sure our personnel are well-trained, equipped, and deployed." And then he had said as well, this is the agency's deputy director, Matt Quinn, he told CBS News that, quote, "They weren't going to fire their way out of this, but did say that they are laser-focused on fixing the root cause of the problem," is what they just said to CBS just yesterday.
Yeah, thank you, Kelly. We've been speaking with Kelly Meyer, the News Nation Washington correspondent, about Secret Service suspensions.
Hard to believe that was a year ago.
I know.
I mean, it seemed like just yesterday. So the Secret Service stood up to the plate and said, we failed.
Yeah.
And the agents involved, at least the 6 that they identified, for whatever reason, we don't know.
Do have disciplinary consequences.
Yeah, they're disciplined, but 10 to 42 days, I assume that means without pay. They're suspended. I mean, 6 weeks without pay is significant, but they kept their jobs. And now she also described, Kelly did, that there's some level of, I'd call it probation. There's some rehabilitative part of this.
Well, yeah, they have a lower. They're put back on desk duty.
Right.
Yes. To.
Right. The Secret Service has so much to do, and it's such a difficult job, and that was a very contentious time anyway in our country. They just have their hands full. When we come back after the break, we're going to talk about Trump's opponent a year ago, and that was then President Biden, and he's been taking some criticism, and his doctors have, over conduct that was occurring during that period of time, and people are looking into why and to what extent his medical helpers may have to testify about his condition. Stay with us.
11:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Claire Scott. KSL's top story this hour. There's a bit of haze floating around the Salt Lake Valley today.
I think what we're seeing in the lower elevations at the very least is a little bit of dust, but up high might be some smoke as well. So it seems to be a combination of the two things right now.
Meteorologist Sam Weber with the National Weather Service says the dust could stick around for a couple of days, but will probably clear out before the end of the day. He says the smoke will continue until we get a wind shift. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. A federal judge has blocked the Trump administration from enforcing its order on birthright citizenship.
Judge Joseph LaPlante, a George W. Bush appointee, said it's not a close call. He's now certified a class action lawsuit on behalf of all infants born to parents in the country illegally or here on a visa. LaPlante's order blocks the Trump administration from moving forward with plans to not issue U.S. passports or Social Security numbers to those newborns. Class action lawsuits are a key exception to the Supreme Court's new restrictions on nationwide injunctions. Judge LaPlante has stayed his own order for 7 days to allow for a likely appeal by the Trump administration.
ABC News national correspondent Stephen Portnoy reporting. Your money at this moment, the Dow is up 261 points. The S&P is up 20 points. And coming up, sunny skies all week long. KSL weather is next. KSL News Time, 11:31.
The sources where we get our news matters.
When you listen to Utah's Morning News, we want you to feel the stories are important to you and trustworthy. This is Amanda Dixon.
And I'm Andy Farnsworth. Join us weekday mornings on KSL News Radio.
I am not a rich woman, but I feel like a rich woman every time I go in my closet. The best, hands down, present I've ever received was my husband secretly redid my closet with Closets by Design. So now when I go in there aren't all these shoes just junked on the floor. They're neatly sitting on their shelves. And my necklaces are hanging on their individual hooks, and earrings are in their little squares in this soft drawer that pulls out. It's just gorgeous. In fact, he saw how much I loved it. He had Closets by Design redo the garage. So now all the stuff, the tools, the toys, the junk is all in cabinets. When you open our garage door, you see cars. That's it. It's amazing. The things that Closets by Design can do, and it's going to save you money right now because you get up to 40% off plus an additional 15% off with 18-month financing. You can do so much with your closet, much more than you realize, with this wonderful Utah company, Closets by Design. Find out more at 1-800-BY-DESIGN or closetsbydesign.com.
This is the story of the one. As a safety manager at a manufacturing plant, he does everything he can to keep his coworkers safe. From finding ways to reduce risks to keeping safety supplies in stock. And for that, he relies on Grainger. Grainger offers a broad range of quality products and next-day delivery, so he can always play it safe. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Get in the zone, AutoZone.
Welcome to AutoZone. What are you working on today? Hey, that's the spirit. Right now, we're celebrating free with a free STP oil filter when you buy 5 quarts of oil and free Duralast brake pads when you buy 2 rotors. Like always, free battery testing, charging, and recycling at every store. Celebrate free at AutoZone, now through July 28th.
Get in the zone, AutoZone.
Restrictions apply.
Amanda, we love talking about Utah Community Credit Union, and guess what? They just got news that they saved their members over $40 million in 2024 alone.
And UCCU is opening 4 new branches in the Salt Lake Valley, which means 6 total now. They have 21st South, Taylorsville, Sandy, Magna, Harriman, and Draper.
And to celebrate these new branches, UCCU is offering some amazing opportunities. First of all, $150 cash just for setting up direct deposit with your UCCU account.
They'll give you up to $250 cash just for transferring any existing loan from another institution to UCCU.
And here's the big one, giving away 10 amazing prizes, including, get this, a brand new 2025 Jeep Wrangler.
So you heard that right. A brand new Jeep Wrangler could be yours, and no purchase is necessary. You don't even have to be a member.
Anyone can enter. It's easy. All you've got to do is go to uccu.com and sign up. So enter to win today.
UCCU.com. Find out more about Utah Community Credit Union, where you're going to love where you bank.
Traffic and weather together, brought to you by Mountain America's Double Rewards credit card promotion. Here is Ricky Meese.
Salt Lake County Freeway seeing a quiet drive. Some of the usual slowdowns. Another day of delays for Davis County drivers southbound I-15 between Kaysville and Farmington. That, of course, is due to road work. And a small accident in Weber County. This is northbound Harrison Boulevard at 9th Street in the right lane. From system install to fast fixes to deliver award-winning heating, cooling, plumbing, and electrical, call Whipple Service Champions for the win today. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
Things have cooled down a little bit from yesterday. We'll see a high around 90 degrees today, 91 tomorrow. After that, slowly warms up until we're back in the upper 90s by Sunday. Right now it is 84 and fair. I'm Claire Scott from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at KSLNewsRadio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
The all-new Inside Sources. Your inside access to the people and policies shaping Utah's future. Here are Greg Skordas and Holly Richardson on KSL News Radio.
Speculation over former President Biden's health was a major consistent talking point for Republicans over the last year, and now former President Biden's White House doctor Kevin O'Connor did not give testimony to Congress recently. They subpoenaed him to ask questions about Biden's health while in office. The committee was investigating Biden's decline in office. O'Connor had regular access to Biden during his presidency while publicly attesting to his fitness for re-election. Here's ABC News national news correspondent Stephen Portnoy with the latest.
Appearing for his scheduled closed-door deposition, Dr. Kevin O'Connor declined to answer questions. House Oversight Committee Chair James Comer read out the first couple to reporters.
Were you ever told to lie about the president's health? He pleaded the Fifth Amendment.
O'Connor's attorney says in addition to the constitutional protection against self-incrimination, his client also cited doctor-patient confidentiality. Comer says the move only raises more questions about a White House cover-up of Biden's health as president. Stephen Portnoy, ABC News, Washington.
So when I first heard about this, Holly, I thought there's a real easy answer to all these questions, and that's HIPAA. That's the doctor-patient privilege. Right. Why does he assert
federal law?
Why does he assert the Fifth Amendment? Because that has the appearance that he's hiding something. You know what I mean? I don't think he needed to do that. But again, I wasn't advising him when he was before Congress.
So one of the news stories that I listened to today actually addressed that issue on the Fifth Amendment. And one of the things that his attorneys did advise him to do, and that he did do, is he mentioned both doctor-patient confidentiality, the HIPAA law, but he also talked about the Fifth Amendment because you can, once you answer, they said, even a question as simple as, is the sky blue, then you actually open yourself up to additional, I guess, questioning or routes of questioning. And so just the way to do it was to just plead the Fifth from the very beginning.
And certainly that made sense for the particular question we heard, because the question wasn't about anything to do with the doctor-patient privilege, I don't think. The question that was asked by this oversight chair, James Comer, was, were you ever told to lie about the president's health? Now, that's not protected by the doctor-patient privilege or by HIPAA, so you can take the Fifth Amendment for something like that. So I guess I'm corrected a little bit. But at first, I just thought.
Well, and my first thought is, why are Republicans wasting time on this? Look, there's a kind of a two-pronged thing that they're looking at here. One is President Biden's health, and we know actually that in May, President Biden announced that he'd been diagnosed with an aggressive form of prostate cancer. But that aside, one of the questions for me is like, well, all you're doing is opening the door for somebody to do that for President Trump, right?
Sure.
And to just say, okay, so you have the one, which is President Biden's health while he was president. And then the second question is, who was using the auto pen, right? So an auto pen is one that signs automatically, and it has to be authorized by the president to use it. President Trump has used it. He used it in his first administration. I think all presidents recently, in the recent past, have used an auto pen. And Biden is pushing back really strongly on the narrative that he wasn't healthy enough to know what was going on. But when you have a president of the United States right now, this week, who is asked who authorized stopping shipping weapons to Ukraine, and he says, I don't know. Why don't you tell me? I mean,
right.
Why are you doing that to yourself?
Right, seriously. So I asked you during the break why Biden wasn't defending himself more, and you said that he actually has been. He has been out in the public. I just haven't seen him. I would have expected, like he did right after the debate, the disastrous debate, to come out fighting and to say, I wasn't in declining mental health at that time at all.
Yeah, and he's out around a lot, and I'm seeing a lot of coverage on social media, specifically on X, where I get a lot of my news. But he's not surrounded by, the paparazzi. He's not surrounded by media anymore because now he's a former president. And then that brings up a second question, the why. Like, to what purpose are you going to do this? What's going to happen? He's not the president. He's not going to run again. Like, what are you hoping to get out of this besides just keeping attention maybe off of what Republicans are doing and casting blame?
Yeah, and what if you did find from some doctors that some note that said, hey, his memory isn't what it used to be? Well, yeah, and he doesn't answer questions quite as forcefully as he had in the past. I don't know what that has to do with being the president of the United States or why we're going down this road. But like you say, maybe it's a decoy.
I think some people forget too that President Biden has had a lifelong stutter, and he speaks more slowly than people who don't stutter because it takes him some time to maybe make the stutter less noticeable. And I had friends who are like, oh, he answers his questions so slowly. Yes, because he has a stutter that he has worked on overcoming for decades.
Another thing that I think he has a hard time overcoming, and this is more a factor of his age, and that is that his gait, his manner, he sort of walks, you say stutter, almost like a stutter step. And sometimes you look at that and you think, he's got some issues, but I mean, he's been around for a long time. He's a fairly good-sized man, and he just walks a little differently. When you see that, he's not. I've seen him sort of try to run sometimes. He'll address a crowd and he'll sort of sprint into the crowd for obvious reasons. But
age can be a factor for sure. And former President Biden is 82. Donald Trump is 79. They're not that far apart in age. There's, visual images of both of them tripping on the stairs trying to get into Air Force One. They both have some issues with that. They're not the only ones. There are younger people too that have missed steps. And sometimes I just think, look, we can have a conversation about how old is too old to be president of the United States. But I think this effort to look backwards and say, well, he wasn't all with it, right? Do you remember Ronald Reagan was in the White House, and he said, my memory is not what it used to be. It happens to all of us as we get older. And then later it came out that he actually had been diagnosed with Alzheimer's. But again, at the beginning, right, he was there in the White House, and when he ran, he was a little older. And when he had that famous debate where he said, well, I'm not going to use my opponent's young aged against him.
Right. And I remember watching some clips of then President Reagan being asked questions, and you could tell he didn't hear them. And Nancy would say, we're working on that. And then Reagan would say, we're working on that, or something like that. And, you know, good for her. And I think President Biden's wife was quite involved in his, you know, how he responded to things, and she was very much on top of things and helped him a lot. But I don't see, even looking back, and I think history will probably show that there was anything in part of Biden's administration or his term in office that was affected in any significant way by any sort of mental health deficits or anything like that.
Right, and I think that's again, like, what's the why behind why we're doing this, and what's the outcome you expect, right? So if you're the chair of the committee and you think this is part of a cover-up, what's your action going to be from this? Right. You're going to limit the age of presidents? Okay, I'm on board with that.
Sure. And what if you find out that he did have some deficits? If there was some harm, or
they're already undoing all of his work.
Right. Yeah. So right. You're a good point. Anyway, that's an interesting subject, and I guess I'm sort of corrected a little bit on why a doctor would invoke the Fifth Amendment when talking about something that's clearly protected by the doctor-patient privilege. When we come back after the break, U.S. measles have hit its highest number in 33 years, according to the Center for Disease Control. This is happening as many kids prepare to go back to school in a month. Let's discuss more about the growing concerns about measles after this break.
Imagine waking up every morning with a smile you're proud of. No more hiding, no more pain. Stubbs Dental Implant Center, Utah's Best of State winner for 3 years in a row, has helped thousands of people ditch the dentures and say goodbye to missing or broken teeth. Their expert team specializes in giving you a permanent, natural-looking smile with dental implants that feel and function just like real teeth. With over 2,000 five-star Google reviews, their patients say it best.
Dental implants gave me my life back. I feel confident again. I feel like I can be myself.
There was no way I was getting dentures. Getting dental implants from Stubbs Dental has been the best decision of my life.
Let the expert team at Stubbs Dental help you take the first step to changing your life with dental implants. Schedule your complimentary consultation today, a $350 value, absolutely free. Visit StubbsDental.com today. That's StubbsDental.com. StubbsDental.com.
Progressive knows owning a home can be hard, but not always. Like when you're relaxing on your patio, enjoying a nice, quiet evening. So quiet. Except for the sound of the neighbor's party. Which you said you'd go to if you weren't busy. And your quiet night on the patio, that's not exactly busy, is it? Maybe you should just stay inside. At least Progressive's Home Quote Explorer lets you easily compare rates, so shopping for insurance is the easiest part of owning a home. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company affiliates and third-party insurers. Comparison rates not available in all states or situations. Prices vary based on how you buy.
This is the story of the one. As a lineman, he does whatever it takes to keep the power on in his community. And he wants a partner like Grainger who does the same. Grainger offers the professional-grade products he needs, from voltage detectors to harnesses to hard hats, plus fast, dependable delivery, so he can rise to every challenge. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
I am down 50 pounds in 11 weeks, and this program works. The pounds melt off. It's amazing.
I let go of 50 pounds. It felt unreal. I was so proud of myself.
Get in the best shape of your life with Soda Weight Loss.
Just 3 weeks in, and pounds are dropping off very quickly. I am down 26 pounds in 3 weeks.
Summer is right around the corner.
Your summer body starts right here because Soda's summer savings are on.
Every single day, Soda Weight Loss is helping people let go of the weight without drugs, without hunger, and the weight stays off.
I tried other things, came to Soda, just amazing.
I started on Soda 8 months ago, and I have released 80 pounds now.
Summer savings, stunning results, only at Soda Weight Loss. Get started now at sodaweightloss.com. That's SOTA weightloss.com.
Soda is, say it with me, state of the art.
This is Derek Miller speaking on business. With over 350 schools and 62,000 students worldwide, School of Rock shapes the next generation of incredible musicians. Through personalized lessons, group rehearsals, and live performances, they nurture talent and build confident, skilled artists. Co-owner Denise Hinsky joins us with more.
Everybody loves music, and School of Rock Salt Lake City is more than a music school. It's a vibrant community where musicians, young and old, can discover their passion, build confidence, and find their voice. We don't teach music to put on shows. We put on shows to teach music. This approach not only develops musical talent, but also fosters teamwork, discipline, and self-expression. For many students, School of Rock becomes a second home, a place to feel accepted, supported, and inspired. Just like everybody loves music, everyone benefits from the creative energy that radiates from student performances, which also often support local events and causes. By nurturing the next generation of musicians and leaders, School of Rock Salt Lake City hopes to enrich the cultural and social fabric of its Trolley Square community, proudly proving what we all know, that music changes lives and brings people together.
School of Rock has built a strong reputation for turning passion into skill through hands-on learning and live shows. Their supportive environment helps students grow and continue developing their talent. Learn more at schoolofrock.com. I'm Derek Miller with the Salt Lake Chamber, speaking on business.
Right now at SNS Roofing, get $1,000 off any roof replacement. Plus, you'll get their incredible 50-year worry-free warranty. Dial pound 250 and then say the keyword SNS Roofing for a free bid.
Millions plan for retirement online. Estimate your future benefits, apply for retirement, and manage your benefits all from the comfort of your home. And give yourself the freedom to do what you want offline. Social Security's online services help put you in control with secure access to your information anytime, anywhere, allowing you to spend more time with family, friends, or simply just enjoying the day. Social Security, securing today and tomorrow. See what you can do online at socialsecurity.gov.
Produced at U.S. taxpayer expense.
Inside Sources. Inside Sources.
Measles cases in the United States have reached their highest number in more than 30 years, Holly, according to the Center for Disease Control. And health experts are sounding the alarm about the spread.
Yeah, it's really concerning. They thought they had mostly had measles extinct in the United States because of the high vaccination rates, but that's been changing. So speaking to the Start Here podcast team, ABC News medical contributor Dr. Darian Sutton explained why the numbers have been able to surge and what we have to do to be able to stop it.
In order to protect against infections and outbreaks of measles, you need at least 95% of the population vaccinated against measles. In recent years, we've seen that percent decline, specifically among children. Right now, approximately 93% of children are vaccinated or up to date on their routine vaccinations. And when that happens, the most contagious virus will break through. And that's what we're seeing today.
That's crazy that you think 95% and you're in good shape, but we're at 93%. And so we're seeing a record number, at least for the last 30 some years, of measles cases in the United States. I thought measles was a thing of the past and something we weren't going to have to address, but Here it is back again. And we've even had, probably close to a dozen cases here in Utah.
So one of the things that's interesting, and I misused a word, right? It's eradicated, not extinct. So measles was almost eradicated. But in Utah, we actually have some data from Utah numbers, and we used to have one of the best rates in the nation. We had 98% vaccination rates in the 2009-2010 school year. But last year, we were down to 89%. And 6 out of 10 Utah schools are below the 95% target mark that we just heard about. So one of the things to know about measles is it is it is the most infectious childhood disease right now. So for every 1,000 people exposed to measles in an unvaccinated population, 900 of them will get the disease. That's 90%. It's really, really high. So we haven't seen it because we've had a vaccination program for our lifetimes, right? Basically starting in the late 1960s.
Yeah, and speaking of the infectiousness of it, here's another soundbite from ABC News medical contributor Dr. Darian Sutton.
The reason is because measles is very good at infecting people. It is the most contagious virus that exists on this planet. And right now, this surge is not just a surge, it's a warning that our public health protective barrier has cracks in it.
So what's surprising to me, and maybe I shouldn't be surprised, 95% is the threshold, the number that this CDC wants us to have. 93% is where most of the country is. And you just told me that Utah is at 89%?
Yeah, that's right.
We're below the national average significantly.
Yep, we're below the national average.
I mean, I wonder what it is about. I mean, I know we talked earlier about something that I'll just try to make it make sense. Utah doesn't have helmet laws either for motorcycles.
Right.
And I think that a lot of Utahns don't want to be told what they have to do. Don't tell us that we have to vaccinate our children. Don't tell us that we have to wear helmets. Don't tell us that we need to wear masks. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Maybe we're a little more freedom seeking here.
There's a component of that, and there are areas in the state where it's the vaccination rate is down around 60%. There's a significant chunk that are not vaccinated. But one of the things is that you just get busy, and we know this. I know this from when I was raising my kids and thinking about vaccinations and those types of things, is that it used to be that you could just tell your school, hey, I don't want my kid to get the vaccines, right? Now they've added some extra steps, and then you had to go down to the health department and you had to watch a little video about vaccines. And then I think they've loosened it again so that, again, it really is, you can do it all online. And sometimes we just get busy as parents and we're like, you know what, it's just easier to sign an exemption than it is to go take my child to get a vaccine. So some of what we see in Utah, a lot of people think, and some research has showed us, that it is just parents have gotten busy. It's not that they have strong opposition to vaccines, but they just don't do it. But what happens, right, is that you then get a spread in an unvaccinated population.
What do we know about people who have, like myself and probably you, who have been vaccinated? Is it a lifetime vaccination?
It's supposed to be. And one of the questions that I had for a physician recently was, if I have been vaccinated, but I don't know if it's quote unquote effective, can I have a blood test to look for titers? And he said sometimes they can tell you whether you're immune, but sometimes it won't tell you. So there are some concerns that the early vaccines, when we were kids, early 1970s, that maybe we should be revaccinated, but it is supposed to infer lifelong immunity.
And you would expect that, like most diseases, the older you are, the more problematic it would be if you contracted the disease.
You know, measles is unique in some ways. So measles can be extremely damaging to babies inside their mother's womb. They can it can cause stillbirth. It can cause miscarriage. It can also cause deafness. We think that's what happened to Beethoven, is that his mom had a case of measles while he was inside of her body, and that he became deaf because of that. We know that as an adult male, if you get a case of measles, that it can lead to sterility. So it's more damaging actually to babies and to children, and of course to pregnant women. And then all diseases have some impact for people who have additional vulnerabilities. You have autoimmune diseases, or you have a lower immune system. So sometimes people who are older have those. Sometimes they're not as at risk.
I guess maybe consult your doctor and see maybe there's no downside to having a revaccination after 60 years after the first one. Well, let's pivot. Mm-hmm. Let's pivot to something a little lighter, because we've had a lot going on today.
We have.
What's our fun fact of the day?
Oh, you got to play me a song.
If you like pina coladas and getting caught in the rain.
All right.
I hate this song.
So today is actually National Pina Colada Day. I don't have mine full strength. I have mine without alcohol. But I really love that combo of pineapple and coconut. Yum, yum.
Yeah, pina coladas are yummy. and I don't drink them because I don't drink hard alcohol. But they sound really good, and the ones that I've tasted are really quite good. The
So-
song, however, not
The
so
song.
much.
So it's actually also National Kitten Day. What are your feelings about kittens?
Okay, I have to tell you a recent experience that happened yesterday,
Oh.
and it's not really a kitten, it's my cat. My cat loves to climb in the car, and I didn't realize this, but what was yesterday? Wednesday. So Tuesday night I got home and I was unloading my car, and unbeknownst to me, the cat got in the car, and unbeknownst to me until I got in my car yesterday morning to come here.
Oh.
To come here to see you.
That sounds dangerous.
I know. I opened the door and there's the cat. And I'm like, okay, what damage was caused? So she slept in my car all night. I'm not a
Wow.
cat fan. I'm not a kitty fan. I think they're cute. I think they're adorable. I think they're like at somebody else's house. They're great. But there was no damage done to the car. Leather seats.
Wow.
You know, and
That's
I
good.
and the only thing I noticed was when I sat down, the cat had obviously sat in the driver's seat because it was warm.
It was still warm?
Yeah, it was still warm.
Wow, I'm glad it was not too hot for your cat. So for me, I love kittens. I don't necessarily love cats. I actually am really allergic to cats, but we have a cat because when we moved into our house 20-something years ago, we were surrounded by fields and we had a lot of mice that came in. And so we got cats, and then we have one that just keeps reproducing. So we actually have tried to take her to get fixed, and she has a heart defect. And they told me I have to pay $800 for an EKG for a cat before they can decide if they can do the surgery to fix her. And I'm like, well, I guess she'll have more kittens.
Yeah, my first experience with a kitten, at least as an adult, was I found one in a field near our house, brought it home. The thing was feral. It was not a nice cat at all, but it loved my oldest daughter, Annie. I mean, this cat would not do anything to Annie, but every time I'd walk up the stairs, I put my hand on the rail and the cat would take a swipe at it and try to scratch my hand. So not a big cat fan, not a big kitty fan, but we have one. And since we've had her, the garage is great.
Yep.
No mice.
No mice.
No problems in the garage. Keeps it clean. There's even a little kitty door so she can come in the house when she wants and exit, except when the dogs chase her out.
I have one more tiny piece of trivia. So what is the Tesla named after?
Well,
the automobile.
The scientist.
That's right.
What is
there
he?
was a scientist, Nikola Tesla. He was